I had been married to my husband for many years, but we never had a child. He comforted me, saying it was okay if we couldn't have children. Then he turned around and brought home the illegitimate son he had with his first love. He claimed he had found the child on the street. I poured my heart and soul into raising my son. After graduating from a top university, my son was hired by a major company with an annual salary of over $1 million. The first love who had disappeared for years suddenly showed up. Sis, thank you for raising my child for so many years and doing such a great job. Now that I'm back, you can give my son back to me. My husband also asked me for a divorce. Now that Xiaoyu is back, it's time for our family of 3 to be reunited. Let's get divorced. Good. I wasn't angry or anxious. I'd been waiting for this day for a long time. The day my son graduated from college, he was hired by the big company Lu Group. I was cleaning the room when he rushed in happily and hugged me tightly. Mom, I got hired by Lu Group. My son held out the offer letter for me to see. Mom, look, the annual salary is $1 million. You never have to suffer again. I'll take good care of you. I looked at the offer letter, tears welling up in my eyes. All these years of raising him hadn't been in vain. 22 years ago, my husband and I had been married for 5 years and still couldn't get pregnant. The hospital checkup showed it was my fault. My husband comforted me. It's okay if we can't have kids, as long as the 2 of us are fine. Worst case, we can adopt one. Not long after, he brought home a baby boy. He said he found him by the roadside. He thought I didn't know that this was the illegitimate child he had with his true love. His true love didn't want to take on the responsibility of raising the child. After giving birth, she disappeared. My husband had no choice but to bring the child home for me to raise. Mom, go rest, leave it to me. My son took the mop from my hand and started mopping the floor. All my years of devotion to him weren't in vain. I taught him to be so sensible and filial. I sat down on the sofa and called my mother-in-law. Mom, Yunhao has been hired by the Lu Group. My mother-in-law has always doted on Yunhao the most, and she beamed from ear to ear. That's wonderful. I knew my precious grandson was the best. He inherited the outstanding genes of our Zhang family. I had no interest in arguing, so I suggested, Mom, your birthday is coming up in a few days. Why don't we take this opportunity to throw a proper celebration? Alright, then I'll definitely make it a grand one. My mother-in-law agreed without hesitation. She loved vanity the most and enjoyed showing off and bragging. Sure enough, in less than half a day, the news had spread everywhere. My grandson has been hired by a big company, with an annual salary of $1 million. You all must come to my birthday banquet then. I couldn't help but smirk. When the time comes, I'm definitely going to give her a big surprise too. My mother-in-law was usually miserly to the extreme, but on the day of the birthday banquet, she invited all her relatives and friends over to show off her precious eldest grandson. She even picked a pretty well-known restaurant. They set up a full 10 tables. Good, the more people there are, the better. From the moment the first relative arrived, my mother-in-law couldn't wait to brag about the good news that her grandson had been hired by a top company. She repeated it to everyone who came after that. My precious eldest grandson got into a big company, with an annual salary of $1 million. Everyone looked at her with envy and congratulated her. My mother-in-law's vanity was thoroughly satisfied. Everyone kept praising my son. Yunhao has been smart since he was a kid. Exactly, he's always done well in school, and he even graduated from a top university. Some people said it was because I raised him well from a young age. Z did a great job too. She's put so much time and effort into him over the years. My in-laws snorted disdainfully from the side. What's the use of being good at teaching? In the end, it's just because our Zhang family has good genes. If he were an idiot, no amount of teaching would help. My husband, Zhang Qiming, just stood by and watched coldly, with no intention of defending me at all. But my son couldn't take it anymore and wanted to stand up for me. Grandma, I wasn't angry at all. I held my son's hand and said, with a smile, Mom's right. My husband's paternal cousin glanced around and deliberately asked me loudly, Z, today is your mother-in-law's birthday. As her daughter-in-law, what gift are you planning to give her? Your mother-in-law is so good to you. You can't just give her something random. You should prepare an expensive, generous gift to show your sincerity. Ha, good to me. Back then, they saw that I had a good job and made a lot of money, and their son was marrying up by being with me. So they really did treat me quite well, but that was all an act. Once I married Zhang Qiming, she and my father-in-law showed their true colors. Because I couldn't have children, they called me a barren hen right to my face and even urged Zhang Qiming to divorce me. She even stormed into my workplace to make a scene about it. After that, I don't know what Zhang Qiming said to her, but she finally quieted down. But she still never gave me a kind face, kept cursing at me, and didn't spare me any dignity, whether in front of others or behind their backs. She even badmouthed me to Yunhao when he was only 5 years old. Your mom is no good, she's not even your real mother. but grandma is your real grandma. Yunhao was still so young then that he couldn't understand a word she was saying, but he was determined to defend me. I won't let you talk bad about mom. If you do, I'll never talk to you again. The old lady had wanted to sow discord and make Yunhao dislike me when she saw Yunhao say that, and feared her precious grandson would stop talking to her. She backed off. This cousin had heard my mother-in-law badmouthing me more than once, and she was clearly just looking for trouble. I didn't mind at all. I smiled and said pleasantly, Auntie is right. Today is my mom's 66th birthday, so of course I'm going to give her a grand gift, a huge surprise. Only then did my in-laws, who had been glaring at me, let out a faint, satisfied snort, but what they didn't know was that the surprise I had prepared for her would utterly disgrace their entire family. Once all the relatives and friends had arrived, the banquet was about to begin, and my mother-in-law asked Yunhao to say a few words on stage. My son took the microphone and looked at me. I owe all my achievements today to my mother. Bang! Just then, the doors of the banquet hall were pushed open. She's not your mother, I'm your real mother. Everyone turned toward the voice. In walked a glamorous woman, radiating arrogance. I couldn't help but narrow my eyes. This woman was no stranger. It was none other than Zhang Qiming's one true love, Sun Xiaoyu. Ignoring everyone's stares, Sun Xiaoyu walked straight up to me, a smug smile on her face. Sister, you've worked hard all these years. Thank you for raising my son so well. Without you, I wouldn't have had such a hard time all these years. Now that I'm back, you can return my son to me. The crowd erupted in an uproar. Who is this woman? Why is she claiming to be Yunhao's biological mother? Qiming, wasn't Yunhao the child you picked up by the roadside back then? Why is a biological mother suddenly appearing out of nowhere? What on earth is going on? It was only when Sun Xiaoyu appeared that Zhang Qiming, who had been gazing at her with such longing, finally managed to tear his eyes away. He took the microphone and announced loudly, Yunhao isn't a child I picked up, he's the Sun Xiaoyu and I have together. As soon as he said that, the crowd broke into heated discussion. So for the past 20-odd years, Yang Zi has been raising her husband's illegitimate son. Zhang Qiming hid this too well. We had no idea. Isn't this just deception? Zhang Qiming ignored them, pulled Sun Xiaoyu close, and looked at me coldly. Yang Zi, since you already know the truth, now that Xiaoyu is back and our son is grown, our family of 3 should be reunited. Let's get divorced. After saying that, he slammed the 2 divorce agreements down in front of me, for everyone was stunned by Zhang Qiming's move. Someone couldn't stand Zhang Qiming's behavior and urged his parents-in-law to step in and stand up for me. Cousin-in-law, Zi has given your Zhang family years of hard work. Even if you don't think she's done anything for you, you can't treat her like this. But the 2 of them didn't take it seriously and snorted coldly. She's nothing but a hen that can't lay eggs. If she could have children, would my son have had to go have a baby with someone else? Not making my son divorce her back then was already more than fair of us. We even let her get a grown son for nothing. She got the better end of the deal. Of course my precious grandson should be reunited with his biological mother. Another relative tried to talk Zhang Qiming down. Qiming, you've gone too far. Zhang Qiming was arrogant. Shut up. This is my family's business. What right do you have to speak? What a bunch of trash. The relative stormed off in anger. Everyone turned to look at me and I remained calm and composed, happily agreeing, sure, I'll give you what you want, but since you cheated first, I want one more clause in the divorce agreement. The house goes to me. Fine, the house is yours, Zhang Qiming said impatiently. Hurry up and sign it. His mother jumped up at once. Qiming, have you lost your mind? I put up the down payment for that house, 120,000 yuan, why should you just give it to her for nothing? Zhang Qiming didn't care at all. Yang Zi paid for the renovation, and she's been paying the mortgage too. She's also been the one raising the child all these years. That rundown house isn't worth much now anyway. 120,000 yuan wouldn't even cover hiring a nanny for 22 years. We can just count it as paying her salary. All in all, we're still coming out ahead. Sun Xiaoyu also chimed in. Mom, Qiming's right. Besides, Yunhao is about to make big money, $1 million a year. Why should we care about such a petty amount? Tell her to hurry up and divorce Qiming. If she changes her mind later, it'll be a mess. Only then did the mother-in-law shut her mouth. Zhang Qiming and I signed the divorce papers in front of everyone. Sun Xiaoyu walked onto the stage and threw her arms around Yunhao excitedly. Son, this is wonderful. Our family of 3 can finally be together again. I'll never leave you again. She wanted to put on a tearjerker reunion between mother and son in front of everyone, but to her surprise, Yunhao shoved her away and looked at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, are you abandoning me? I ignored him and dialed a number instead. "You can come in." The next second, the private room door was pushed open and someone walked in. I couldn't help but curl up the corners of my mouth. Don't rush, the best part has only just begun. Everyone turned toward the sound. They saw a boy in his early 20s limping in, ragged in skin and bones. A long, slanted knife scar ran from his forehead to his chin, looking downright vicious. "Who's that? How long has he gone without a shower? Why is he so filthy? He reeks, it's disgusting." Sun Xiaoyu pinched her nose in disgust. "Li Zichen." Zhang Qiming recognized him at once, his face full of contempt. I pointed my chin at Li Zichen and said to Sun Xiaoyu and Zhang Qiming, "Well, he's your biological son." Then I said to Li Zichen, "Haven't you always wanted to find your birth parents? Here they are." 5. Li Zichen was the adopted son of Old Song, the couple who lived next door to us. After being married for years without having a child, the elderly couple, the Songs, adopted Li Zichen from a hospital. At first, they treated him pretty well, but less than 2 years later, they had a child of their own, and their attitude toward him changed for the worse. They even once wanted to send him away, but the authorities wouldn't allow them to abandon the child they had taken in. They saw him as a burden and beat and cursed him at every turn. They often didn't feed him, and they never bought him new clothes. Over the years, Li Zichen suffered plenty from hunger and cold. Later on, he dropped out of school early and spent his days hanging around with a bunch of aimless punks. At 15, he got into a fight, injured his leg, and ended up in a juvenile detention center. The scar on his face was left from that time too. After he got out, he still couldn't find any decent work, and the Songs wouldn't even let him through the door. He could only fill his stomach by begging and rummaging through trash bins. He had been hungry for so long that the moment he saw the glittering Sun Xiaoyu, his eyes lit up. "Mom," but the moment he got close, Sun Xiaoyu jerked away as if she'd been bitten by a venomous snake, hastily jumping back and shouting, "Ah, don't call me that, I'm not your mother. How could I possibly have given birth to something like you?" Zhang Qiming shouted at me, "Bullshit, he's like a piece of trash. How could he possibly be the Sun Xiaoyu?" And I had. Yunhao had been clever and sensible since childhood, with excellent grades. He was the kind of child other people's families brag about. Li Zichen, on the other hand, was his opposite. Every time the neighbors around them finished praising Yunhao, they would turn around and use Li Zichen as a bad example, putting him down without mercy. Zhang Qiming had also belittled him plenty of times. In their eyes, only someone as outstanding as Yunhao was worthy of being their son, so how could he possibly recognize a crippled beggar as his son? "Yang Zi, you have such a vicious heart. Just to claim my son as your own, you actually found some filthy beggar to impersonate our son." Sun Xiaoyu also jabbed a finger at my nose and cursed, "Yang Zi, I can see it now. You think my son is too outstanding and is about to make a lot of money, so you don't want to let go, but he's our biological son and has absolutely no blood relation to you. Stop deluding yourself." The in-laws also stood up and shouted at me, "You bitch, what nonsense are you spouting? Yunhao is our own grandson." They used to curse Li Zichen as a little beast all the time. How could they possibly want him to be their biological grandson? Our son shot right back at them, "Yang Zi is my mom. Stop talking nonsense. I don't know you. Even if she isn't my biological mother, she raised me for so many years. She is my mom." "Yunhao, what are you talking about?" Zhang Qiming snapped angrily. "Sun Xiaoyu is your real mother. What son would refuse to recognize his own mother? Besides, haven't I, your biological father, been by your side all these years?" I let out a cold snort. "What kind of father are you? For all these years, when have you ever taken care of your son? And you still have the nerve to say that, no matter what, I am his biological father. You'll never change that, even if you die. Sorry, but you're not." Finally, at this moment, I pulled out a paternity test and slapped it across his face. "Zhang Qiming, open your damn eyes and take a good look. Yunhao has absolutely no blood relation to you. He's not your son." 6. Impossible. Zhang Qiming refused to believe it. "I was the one who personally brought Yunhao home back then. How could there be a mistake?" Sun Xiaoyu pointed at me and shouted angrily, "You're lying. This paternity test must be fake." I looked at them indifferently and said with a smile, "The child you brought back wasn't Sun Xiaoyu's son at all. I swapped him out long before you brought him home. You expect me to raise your bastard child? Dream on." "What?" The two of them were completely dumbfounded. Someone whispered, "Now that you mention it, taking a closer look, that little beggar really does look a lot like Qiming." I knew it. How could someone like him possibly have a child as outstanding as Yunhao? Zhang Qiming also looked at Li Zichen, and his face went pale in an instant. Could it be, he really is my son? Then he pointed at me and cursed, "Yang Zi, how dare you do this? You're not even Human, Sun Xiaoyu rushed over to hit me. Yang Zi, you vicious woman, you've ruined my son like this, I'll fight you to the death. But Yunhao shoved her to the ground. My in-laws also jumped in and hurled insults at me. You bitch, how could you be so cruel? And after all our family has done for you, cruel, I'm just giving them a taste of their own medicine. So you say your family treated me well, huh? They treated me far too well. So well that they cheated on me behind my back and then brought home their illegitimate child for me to raise. After I worked myself to the bone raising that child to adulthood, his birth mother suddenly showed up out of nowhere. Then they divorced me and kicked me to the curb from beginning to end. The whole family knew the truth. Only one person was kept in the dark. Even the son I'd raised with such hardship turned out to be an ungrateful ingrate. After he reunited with his birth mother, he forced me to sever ties with him. You're not my real mother, so I'm not going to support you in your old age. Sign the severance paper right now, or don't blame me for being ruthless. I wasted 22 years of my life, pouring my heart and soul into raising him, only to end up with nothing and die alone and abandoned. Fortunately, I was reborn before Zhang Qiming brought the child back, and I swapped Li Zichen with Yun Hao in my past life. They schemed against me and ruined me so badly. In this life, I'll turn their own scheme against them and make them pay back every drop of blood with blood. I'll have Li Zichen show up here and let them see just how miserable their own son and grandson has become. That's the surprise I've prepared for them. Since Zhang Qiming and I are already divorced, I have nothing to do with your family anymore. My son and I will be leaving now. I won't keep you from your family reunion. With that, I took my son and left with my head held high. I left a room full of people staring in stunned silence. The in-laws had planned to use this chance to show off their precious eldest grandson, but their own grandson, once a top graduate of Tsinghua and Peking University, had become a lame beggar that everyone avoided. Their dreams shattered. My mother-in-law pointed at my retreating figure with trembling fingers. You little slut. Before she could finish, she fainted, and my father-in-law was so furious he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The scene descended into chaos. Meanwhile, Zhang Qiming and Sun Xiaoyu were clutching the paternity test report, unable to accept reality, repeating over and over, impossible, this can't be possible. 7. After leaving the restaurant, I took Yunhao to change his surname. Zhang Yunhao was changed to Yang Yunhao. Yunhao, Yang is your real surname. I told him the truth about his background. Your biological parents died in a car accident when you were 2 months old. They used their bodies to shield you with everything they had. Yunhao was very smart and asked me, are they my maternal uncle and aunt? I nodded. He suddenly understood and said tearfully, no wonder you took me every Qingming festival to visit their graves. Because I wanted them to watch you grow up. I took him to the cemetery and had him kneel down to call them mom and dad, then bow to them in worship. When it was over, he stood up and bowed to me. Mom, you've worked so hard all these years. It's nothing, I said with a smile, shaking my head. Yunhao, you're my brother and sister-in-law's child. I'm your biological aunt. They're gone, and raising you was what I should do. No. Yunhao shook his head. He held me tightly and choked out, you are my real mother, and I am your real son. Mom, now that I'm grown, I'll protect you. I'll never let anyone bully you again. Moved as I was, I thought of that ungrateful wolf, Li Zichen. The same was true for them, but the reward they got was different. Sure enough, some people are just born rotten through and through, and their hearts can never be warmed. On the other side, though, things were lively at the Zhang family's place. My in-laws had thrown such an extravagant birthday banquet because they'd originally wanted me to pay for it, but they never expected me to leave, and now none of them wanted to foot the bill. When it came time to pay, my mother-in-law woke up and called me in a fury. Yang Zi, get your ass back here and pay the bill right now. I laughed and played dumb. Pay the bill? What bill? Don't play innocent. If your son hadn't gotten into a big company, would I have booked such an expensive meal and invited so many people to his birthday banquet? This is hilarious. You were the one driven by vanity, insisting on showing off in front of your relatives. What does that have to do with me? I'm divorced from your son now, and I have nothing to do with your family. If you want someone to pay, go find whoever you like. I couldn't be bothered to listen to her nonsense, so I just hung up. She was notoriously stingy and never even chipped in for other people's big occasions. This time, when she held her birthday banquet, the relatives didn't want to come either, but to show off her eldest grandson, she said no one needed to bring gifts. The relatives figured they'd get a free meal and drinks anyway, so they all came with their whole families. When she couldn't get money out of me, she actually turned around and asked the relatives to pay the bill. The relatives were furious and snapped back at her. Ma Meifeng, you were the one who said nobody had to chip in for the banquet in the first place. That's why we came. How can you be so shameless? Because of this, her in-laws completely ruined their reputation. No one wanted anything to do with them anymore, and even when people ran into them on the street, they kept their distance. Then she turned her attention to Sun Xiaoyu and tried to get her to pay up. Sun Xiaoyu was no pushover either. How could she possibly let herself be taken for a sucker? The two of them ended up in a huge shouting match. In the end, the old lady had to pull out the money she had painstakingly saved and pay the bill herself. She was so furious about it that she ended up being admitted to the hospital. 8. Zhang Qiming somehow found out that I had changed Yunhao's surname and came with Sun Xiaoyu to question me. Yang Zi, what right do you have to change Yunhao's surname? Did you ask for my permission? I sneered. He's not your son, so why would I need your permission? If anything, you can change Li Zichen's name to Zhang Zichen. Yang Zi, you're still trying to lie to me now. I've already done a paternity test. Li Zichen isn't my son at all. Yunhao, change your surname back right now. Dad can let bygones be bygones. Seeing that Zhang Qiming still wouldn't give up, I had no choice but to tell him the truth. Yunhao is my brother's child. He was always supposed to have the surname Yang. How could Zhang Qiming possibly believe that? If what you're saying is true, why isn't Li Zichen related to me by blood? Yunhao is my son. You little bitch, you can't stand seeing others do well. And because you can't have children yourself, you're jealous, aren't you? Sun Xiaoyu chimed in as well. Exactly, Yang Zi, you're only refusing to let go because my son has a bright future. You won't let our mother and son reunite. You're downright vicious. Vicious? I laughed in anger. You have a child and let someone else raise him, then wait until he's grown and suddenly show up to claim him. Who's really vicious here? Why Li Zichen isn't blood related to Zhang Qiming? Doesn't Zhang Qiming know what happened? Don't you know too? You, Sun Xiaoyu's eyes flickered. Of course it's because Li Zichen simply isn't the son of Zhang Qiming and me. Not Zhang Qiming's son doesn't mean he isn't your son. Zhang Qiming was completely baffled beside them. Yang Zi, what do you mean, Zhang Qiming? And you still don't understand what I mean? You're unbelievably stupid. No wonder you were fooled for over 20 years. Back then, it was Sun Xiaoyu who claimed she was pregnant with your son. Are you sure the baby in her belly was really yours? I'm telling you this out of kindness. Sun Xiaoyu's child is not yours at all, which is why you and Li Zichen aren't related by blood. Sun Xiaoyu's child was another man's. Back then, to get rid of the burden, she lied and said the child was Zhang Qiming's. Hearing that her son had made something of himself, she thought of coming back to grab an easy advantage. You're talking nonsense. Sun Xiaoyu panicked and loudly denied it. Qiming, she's just trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't believe her. I raised an eyebrow and asked, then do you dare to take a paternity test with Li Zichen? Zhang Qiming also instinctively looked at her. Sun Xiaoyu immediately put on an innocent act. Qiming, after everything we've been through together, you're going to doubt me just because of a few words from her. Sure enough, Zhang Qiming was persuaded by this manipulative woman's few words. Yang Zi, don't think you can drive a wedge between us, but I had an ace up my sleeve. Zhang Qiming, do you know why I was so certain that Sun Xiaoyu's child wasn't yours? Because you simply can't father a child. He refused to believe it. Bullshit. The one who's sick is you. The one who can't have children is you. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him and simply pulled out the medical report from back then. It clearly stated that Zhang Qiming had congenital low sperm count and was infertile. 9. Back then, Zhang Qiming and I had been married for 3 years, but we still had no children. His mother kept insisting that I was the one with a problem, and kept forcing all sorts of dubious folk remedies and herbal concoctions down my throat. I could clearly feel my body growing weaker by the day. If this went on, I'd end up sick from all that stuff even if I wasn't sick to begin with. I dragged Zhang Qiming to the hospital with me for a full checkup. When the test results came back, I went to pick them up by myself. The results showed that I was perfectly healthy, and the problem was with Zhang Qiming. The doctor told me plainly that it was congenital and incurable, and that he would never be able to have children. Back then, I swapped in a fake medical report to protect your dignity as a man and took the blame for our infertility myself. But at the time, Sun Xiaoyu told you she was pregnant with your child, so you confidently assumed you were fine. You didn't even realize the medical report was obviously fake. Zhang Qiming clutched the medical report tightly, and his face darkened. Sun Xiaoyu's eyes flickered. Honey, don't believe her. She's making things up. She's just jealous of me. I cut her off directly and said to Zhang Qiming, if you want to verify whether what I'm saying is true, it's simple. Have Sun Xiaoyu and Li Qingjun take a paternity test to see whether they're related by blood. If they are related by blood, then it means Li Qingjun is a child Sun Xiaoyu had with another man. Seeing how certain I sounded, he finally began to have some doubts. He wanted to drag Sun Xiaoyu to get a paternity test, but she refused no matter what. With the lie about to be exposed, Sun Xiaoyu panicked completely and still tried to argue. Honey, she's slandering me, believe me. Zhang Qiming had only been half convinced before, but seeing her reaction, what more was there not to understand? Ignoring Sun Xiaoyu's struggles, he yanked a tuft of hair from her head and took it to the hospital for a paternity test. The results showed that she really was Li Zichen's mother. This meant Sun Xiaoyu had been lying to him all along for a full 20 years. This made Zhang Qiming furious. He flew into a rage and beat Sun Xiaoyu with fists and kicks, leaving her black and blue, and nobody could stop him. You bitch, you've had me wearing this green hat for so many years, and you even made me raise your son. That day, Sun Xiaoyu's screams echoed throughout the entire hospital. Later, someone called the police, and Zhang Qiming was taken back to the station and detained. Meanwhile, Sun Xiaoyu was admitted straight to the hospital. During her hospital stay, Li Zichen took care of her, but as soon as she was discharged, she pushed him away. You're not my son at all. My son should be someone like Yang Yunhao, someone who graduated from a top university and works at a big company. How could he be some fool like you? Li Zichen had once clung to the hope of being reunited with his biological mother. He never expected that once she was done using him, she would turn on him and deny him. He stared blankly at his own mother, deeply hurt and looking pitiful, but beneath the fringe covering his eyes, a flash of ruthlessness passed through them. Not long after, the old house was demolished, and I received 5 million yuan in compensation. In my previous life, I left with nothing, and the demolition compensation ended up in the Zhang Qiming family's pocket. So in this life, I insisted on keeping the house. When my former in-laws heard about it, they dragged Zhang Qiming, who had just been released from the police station, and came to see me. They still wanted the demolition compensation from me. How could I possibly give it to them? I had a divorce agreement, and it clearly stated that the house belonged to me. They wouldn't get a single cent of the compensation. My mother-in-law was filled with regret, pounding on Zhang Qiming as she wailed. It's all because of you, you ungrateful son. I told you not to give the house to this bitch, but you just wouldn't listen to me. The duck that was already cooked just flew away. With one plan failing, Zhang Qiming then set his sights on Yunhao. He found Yunhao and tried to guilt-trip him morally. Young Yunhao, I may not be your biological father, but I raised you for more than 20 years, and you have a legal duty to support me. The nerve of him saying that. Yunhao had never felt much for him since childhood. Instead, because of me, he came to hate him. You're not my dad. Stop harassing me from now on. Zhang Qiming was so furious he ground his teeth and said, fine, just you wait. He sued Yunhao, and before the trial, he went to Yunhao's company to smear his reputation, causing Yunhao to be suspended from work. After his scheme succeeded, he smiled smugly. Young Yunhao, even if I can't win the case, I'll make sure public opinion condemns you. I've got nothing left anyway. When you've got nothing to lose, you're not afraid of anything. If you won't give me money, then don't expect to have peace either. I'm going to ruin you. He also went to the media and spread the story everywhere, claiming that Yunhao was the illegitimate son I had with another man, and that he had raised him with great hardship without knowing the truth. I can't believe that ungrateful wretch, after learning the truth, would throw away all the years of hard work and sacrifice and try to kick him to the curb. With top student from Tsinghua and Peking University and employee at a major company in the headline, it drew a huge wave of attention and shot to the top of the trending list in no time. People believed his lies, unaware of the truth. Netizens were outraged and tore into me and Yunhao. How could this woman be so vicious? Fine, she cheated, but she even had her husband raise her illegitimate child. That illegitimate child is an ungrateful wretch too. His adoptive father at least raised him, and yet he repays kindness with betrayal. He's rotten to the core. Get this vicious mother and son off the planet. They don't deserve to be alive. In real life, a lot of people were cursing us too, just like in my previous life. After Li Zichen reunited with Zhang Qiming and Sun Xiaoyu, he not only wanted to smear my name but also ditch me, so he even publicly claimed that I abused him when he was little. Don't be fooled by how nice my foster mother is to me now. She only treats me well because I've made something of myself. When I was little, she would always wait until my dad wasn't home to beat and yell at me, and even deny me food. If I hadn't been strong enough, I might have died long ago. He even showed the scar on his arm and said I did it, but that scar was clearly from when he was in middle school, running with the wrong crowd and getting into fights. Back then, I even risked my life fighting that street thug for him, and I nearly got hacked to death by that guy back then. Just like now, both internet users and people in real life were cursing me out. I lost my job and became a complete pariah, someone everyone wanted to beat down. Zhang Qiming called to threaten me. Yang Zi, you swapped out my medical checkup report and tricked me into raising your nephew for 20 years. This is the retribution you deserve. I didn't want to waste words on him. Zhang Qiming, see you in court, in this life. I'm going to give them back everything they once did to me. 11. The trial was live-streamed in full that day. I explained that Zhang Qiming was infertile, and I had swapped out the medical report to protect his dignity. In the end, he cheated on me and even brought his illegitimate son home for me to raise. Once our son grew up, he teamed up with Sun Xiaoyu and tried to kick me to the curb. After I found out about his scheme, I quietly replaced the child with my own nephew. I also presented solid evidence. The tables turned completely, and the netizens who had been criticizing me all turned on Zhang Qiming instead. So he's the real piece of trash here, shamelessly pinning his own filthy deeds on someone else. He's absolutely mastered the art of thief crying stop thief. He's so shameless, it's like shamelessness itself opened the door for him. Yang Zi swapping his illegitimate son for her own nephew was not wrong at all. That cheating bastard's family got exactly what they deserved. As for the fact that, as Yunhao's adoptive father, he had never once fulfilled a father's responsibilities, I had already provided ample evidence from the time he was little until now. I was the one who raised Yunhao by myself. He didn't lift a finger or spend a single cent. He never cared about Yunhao at all. I raised Yunhao all by myself. He had absolutely nothing to do with it. I had already seen this coming. From the day Yunhao was brought home, I had surveillance cameras installed in the house. The judge immediately dismissed Zhang Qiming's accusations against Yunhao, and I cleared our names, and he returned to work at the company. Zhang Qiming, on the other hand, got a taste of his own medicine. He became a hated pariah, was fired from the company, lost his job, and hid at home all day. He would wrap himself up tightly before going out. Once, when he went out to buy breakfast, a few elderly women recognized him and pelted him with vegetable leaves and rotten eggs, chasing him for 2 blocks. They told the little girl watching the spectacle, "This is that cheating jerk online who made his wife raise his illegitimate child." For the mistress, when you girls start dating and get married, keep your eyes open and don't end up with a scumbag like him, otherwise, your whole life will be ruined. Zhang Qiming believed that Sun Xiaoyu was the one who had ruined his life and driven him to this miserable end. Unable to swallow his anger, he went to Sun Xiaoyu's rented apartment and beat her up. Li Zichen, on the other hand, believed they had ruined his life, so he killed both of them. After that, he showed up at my house with a knife because Zhang Qiming and Sun Xiaoyu told him before they died, "You turned out like this because of Yang Zi. If she hadn't switched you back then, we would have raised you properly, and you would have grown up to be young Yunhao." Sure enough, Li Zichen was brainwashed by them. He wanted to kill me and Yunhao to get revenge for himself. He glared at me with hatred. I could have gotten into a top university, landed a job at a major company after graduation, and earned millions a year. The happy life Yang Yunhao should have been mine. It's all your fault, Yang Zi. You ruined your own life. But I was prepared. Not only did I stop him from getting away with it, I also secured proof of his attempted murder and called the police to have him arrested. I did it on purpose, to get revenge on him from my past life. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. His parents were punished, and of course he couldn't be let off either. When the police pinned him to the ground, he suddenly changed his attitude, staring at me in disbelief and begging through tears, "That's not what happened. Mom, you love me the most, even though you're not my biological mother. You raised me from childhood, you love me the most. How could you bear to send me to prison?" I knew he had been reborn even better. I replied expressionlessly, "Have you already forgotten what you did to me? The price you didn't pay in your last life, you'll pay in this one." 12. My ex-mother-in-law couldn't bear her son's death and suffered a brain hemorrhage that left her paralyzed. My ex-father-in-law left her home alone, went out to dance in the square, hooked up with an old lady, and ended up beaten into disability by the woman's old man. When I heard the news, I couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh. Serves them right, they ruined me so badly in my past life, and at last these scumbags got the punishment they deserved. Not long after, Yunhao was promoted and got a raise for doing a good job. Later, he married the heiress of the Lu group. Come to think of it, the two of them should thank Li Zichen for bringing them together. Li Zichen was brainwashed by Sun Xiaoyu into thinking he could have married a wealthy heiress. He went on to harass Lu Yuqing. "Lu Yuqing, do you know, I was supposed to be outstanding. You should have married me. You're mine." Lu Yuxiao just thought he was crazy, but he cornered her in an alley and tried to force himself on her. Yunhao happened to pass by and saved Lu Yuqing. Lu Yuqing was deeply grateful to Yunhao. Later, when she found out he worked at their Lu group, she would often go to his department to look for him. The two shared the same values and were deeply drawn to each other, naturally ending up together. In fact, Yunhao and Li Zichen never switched lives. In his previous life, Li Zichen got into a top 985 university. Although it was also a prestigious school, it still couldn't compare with the Tsinghua Peking University level. University Yun Hao got into after graduation, he didn't join the Lu group either, and he certainly didn't earn $1 million a year. The girlfriend he dated was beautiful and from a good family, but she was no saint either. In this lifetime, Yun Hao found a girlfriend who was prettier and came from a better family background. Most importantly, she had sound values and a good character. My son deserves a better life. The end. That wraps up the first story. Don't go anywhere. The next one is even more exciting. When she stood at my door in a wrinkled wedding dress, I knew something was wrong. Wang Shoulan stared out the window, her expression complicated. 23 years of hard work raising her child had ended in an empty wedding. Mom, I was wrong. Her daughter's voice trembled. The moment I chose them, I had already lost the most precious thing. So where exactly did the 500,000 yuan dowry go? The year Wang Shoulan turned 50, the wrinkles on her face were like rings carved by time, telling the story of the hardships she had endured for half her life. 23 years ago, on a rainy night, she found a newborn baby girl in a cardboard box next to a recycling station. Tiny and fragile, her body was wrapped in a wet towel, her eyes tightly shut, and she let out faint cries. In that moment, Wang Shoulan, already 40 years old, made a decision that would change her life forever. She adopted the abandoned child. She named the baby girl Huang Xiaoxue. Huang was her surname, and Xiaoxue came from the fact that it was snowing that day. While the child had entered her life like a snowflake, pure and flawless, Wang Shoulan was a ragpicker in the city. Every day at 4 in the morning, she got up and pushed a tricycle through the streets and alleys, collecting recyclable waste. She lived in a shabby single-story house on the outskirts of the city, where the roof often leaked, the winter winds cut through to the bone, and the summer heat was unbearable. Yet it was in this environment that she worked tirelessly to raise Huang Xiaoxue. Mom, why did you bring back so much trash again? Our house is practically turning into a junkyard. The 10-year-old Huang Xiaoxue often complained. Wang Shoulan would just smile. This isn't trash, it's money. These cardboard boxes can be sold for cash, and I can use it to buy you a new school bag. Despite their hardships, Wang Shoulan never let Huang Xiaoxue start life at a disadvantage. She scrimped and saved, always reserving the best for her daughter. From a young age, Huang Xiaoxue went to school in clean, tidy clothes. Her school bag was not a brand name one, but it was always brand new. Her school supplies were simple, but never lacking. Huang Xiaoxue was very smart and consistently ranked among the top of her class. Whenever Wang Shoulan saw her excellent report card, she would be moved to tears, and then take out the little reward she had prepared in advance, a bar of chocolate, a storybook, or a simple but rare meal. Out, Mom, when I grow up, I'll make sure you have a good life and never have to pick up trash again. Huang Xiaoxue would often make this promise. Hearing these words, Wang Shoulan would always smile with relief, the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes softening. As long as you're doing well, everything I do is worth it. When Huang Xiaoxue was in high school, her homeroom teacher once visited their home and was shocked by the conditions they lived in. Huang Xiaoxue is studying. Xiaoxue has been doing very well at school. I always thought your family was in pretty good shape. Wang Shoulan was a little embarrassed, but she answered calmly, my circumstances may not be great, but that doesn't affect my child's studies. Every day I leave early and come home late, just so she can study without worry. The homeroom teacher looked at this down-to-earth mother with deep respect. There aren't many parents like you. I'll pay special attention to Xiaoxue, and please rest assured, with Wang Shoulan's support, Huang Xiaoxue was admitted with excellent grades to the city's best university. That day, Wang Shoulan specially wore the only decent piece of clothing she had kept for years and accompanied her daughter to register. Watching Huang Xiaoxue standing in the sunlight with a smile on her face, she felt that every hardship in her life had been worth it. During college, Huang Xiaoxue met Chao Ming, a boy from a well-off family. The two soon fell in love, and Chao Ming often came to pick Huang Xiaoxue up from where she lived. The first time he saw Wang Shoulan's home, Chao Ming was clearly taken aback, but he quickly composed himself and politely greeted Wang Shoulan. Wang Shoulan could tell that Chao Ming was a good boy. Although his family was much better off than theirs, he never looked down on Huang Xiaoxue's background. She was quietly delighted and felt that her daughter had found a good home. After graduating from college, Huang Xiaoxue found a good job at a company. She moved out of Wang Shoulan's home and into a rental apartment near the company. She would occasionally come back to visit her mother, bringing some daily necessities and food. Although Wang Shoulan was reluctant to let her go, she also felt comforted by her daughter's independence. Just as Huang Xiaoxue and Chao Ming were getting ready to talk about marriage, something unexpected happened. Through a family-finding agency, Huang Xiaoxue found her biological parents, Wu Guoqiang and Chen Meiling. That night, Huang Shueshue excitedly ran back to Wang Shoulan's home, her face beaming with uncontrollable joy. Mom. I found my biological parents. They've been looking for me all along. They said they didn't abandon me on purpose back then. It was because something happened in the family. Wang Shoulan's heart sank at the news. It felt as if a huge stone had been pressed against her chest, leaving her breathless. She forced herself to stay calm. Then, what are they like? They're doing very well now. They opened a renovation company. Mom also has a younger brother named Wu Xiaojia, who is 5 years younger than me. They regret that decision deeply, Huang Shui said, her eyes sparkling. They'd been looking for me all along. Wang Shoulan fell silent. She didn't know what to say. More than 20 years of devotion seemed to matter less in the face of blood ties. She could only nod quietly. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Not noticing the sadness in her mother's eyes, Huang Shui continued excitedly describing her meeting with her birth parents. They live in the Villa District in the east side of the city. Their house is huge, 3 stories. Dad said he wants to make it up to me, and he'll buy a wedding home for me and Chao Ming as a gift. Hearing this, Wang Shoulan felt even worse. She knew she would never be able to give Huang Shui material comforts like this. It was the only thing she could do. She could only do her utmost to save up a little dowry for her daughter, hoping she would not be at a disadvantage in marriage. As Huang Xiaoxue spent more and more time in contact with her biological parents, she came home less and less often. On every phone call, she would unconsciously keep talking about how good her biological parents were, while showing less and less concern for Wang Shoulan. Wang Shoulan felt that her daughter was slowly slipping away from her side. One spring afternoon, Huang Xiaoxue brought her biological parents, Wu Guoqiang and Chen Meiling, to Wang Shoulan's home. Wang Shoulan had gotten up early to prepare a simple meal. Though plain, every dish was one of Huang Xiaoxue's favorites, made with great care. As soon as Wu Guoqiang and Chen Meiling stepped inside, a faint trace of disdain showed in their eyes. Chen Meiling looked around and forced out a smile. Auntie, you've had a hard time these years. Wang Shoulan shook her head. It hasn't been hard. Xiaoxue has always been very sensible. She's never given me any trouble since she was little. At the dinner table, Wu Guoqiang brought up Huang Xiaoxue's upcoming marriage. We're planning to buy Xiaoxue a house in the east part of the city, as a wedding gift. Wang Shoulan felt a pang of bitterness when she heard that. She had spent her whole life saving, yet she still couldn't manage to prepare a decent house for her daughter. But she forced a smile. That's wonderful. Xiaoxue is truly lucky. After dinner, Huang Xiaoxue cautiously made a request. Mom, I want to transfer my household registration to my biological parents' home. That way, it'll look more presentable at the wedding. Wang Shoulan felt as if struck by lightning. She put down the bowl in her hand and looked at her daughter in disbelief. Xiaoxue, what did you say? I just want the wedding to look a little more presentable. Huang Xiaoxue lowered her head, unable to meet Wang Shoulan's eyes. If my household registration is with the Wu family, it'll sound better when I'm introduced at the wedding. Wang Shoulan was silent for a moment, her voice trembling slightly. For more than 20 years, I've treated you like my life itself. Household registration is just a piece of paper, but it represents the bond between us. And now, for the sake of so-called decorum, you want to sever that bond. Wu Guoqiang cut in. Auntie, that's not what we mean. Xiaoxue is, after all, our biological daughter, so having her household registration in our family is only natural. Wang Shoulan suddenly looked up, a flash of anger in her eyes. Only natural. 23 years ago, you abandoned her next to a pile of garbage. I risked being arrested by the police to take her home and raised her little by little, and now you're telling me that having her household registration in your family is only natural. The atmosphere instantly froze. Huang Xiaoxue stood awkwardly in the middle, not knowing what to do. Chen Meiling quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Auntie, we're very grateful for the care you've given Xiaoxue all these years. If it weren't for you, we might never have found our daughter again. We just want to make up for the mistakes of the past and give Xiaoxue a better future. Wang Shoulan took a deep breath, trying hard to calm herself. Xiaoxue is grown now, and she has the right to make her own choice. If she wants to transfer her household registration, I won't stop her, but I hope she understands what that choice means. Huang Xiaoxue had tears in her eyes, but she still nodded. Mom, I know you've given so much for me, but I really want to have a complete family. And I really want my biological parents' blessing when I get married. Hearing this, Wang Shoulan felt as if her heart were being cut by knives. She fought back her tears and said in a low voice, so you're choosing between me and them? Mom, it's not like that. Huang Xiaoxue hurried to explain, but the words caught in her throat and she swallowed them back. Looking at her daughter's hesitant expression, Wang Shoulan gave a bitter smile. looks like you've already made your choice." Seeing this, Wu Guoqiang immediately jumped in. "Auntie, we're not trying to take your daughter away. After we get married, Xiaoxue can still come see you often." Wang Shoulan shook her head and said nothing more. She knew that from this day on, there was already an unbridgeable chasm between her and Huang Xiaoxue. That night, Huang Xiaoxue stayed behind to keep Wang Shoulan company. The two sat under the dim light, the atmosphere heavy and solemn. "Mom, it's not that I'm not grateful to you, I just want my wedding to be a little more respectable," Huang Xiaoxue said softly. Wang Shoulan sighed. "Xiaoxue, I understand your desire for respectability, but dignity doesn't come from clinging to others, it comes from your own effort and character." "I'm not clinging to anyone, they're my biological parents," Huang Xiaoxue argued, somewhat agitated. "Then what am I?" Wang Shoulan asked suddenly. "For 23 years, who stayed up all night when you were sick, who worked tirelessly to pay your tuition, who wiped away your tears when you were wronged." Huang Xiaoxue fell silent, lowering her head and saying nothing. "I don't blame you for wanting to reconnect with your biological parents, but what you're doing now is denying the bond between us, denying everything I've poured into you over the past 20+ years." Wang Shoulan's voice was filled with disappointment and sorrow. Huang Xiaoxue looked up, tears in her eyes. "Mom, I'm not denying what you've done for me, I just want to find my roots, I want to know where I came from. You know, I was teased by classmates for not having a father since I was little, and how much I longed for a complete family, don't you?" Wang Shoulan was hurt by those words. She fell silent for a long time, then finally gave a bitter smile. "So in your eyes, I can't give you the so-called complete family, or the respectability you want." "Mom, that's not it," Huang Xiaoxue wanted to explain, but it was already too late to turn things around. Wang Shoulan stood up, her voice chillingly calm. "Since you've already made your choice, then go, move your household registration, and go live the life you want with your biological parents. But remember, you shut this door yourself." Huang Xiaoxue couldn't believe her mother's words. "Mom, what do you mean by that? Are you cutting ties with me?" "I'm not the one cutting ties, it's your choice that led to this outcome." Wang Shoulan's voice was utterly calm, without the slightest ripple. "I accept your decision. And I also ask that you respect my feelings." Huang Xiaoxue stood there speechless, unsure how to respond. She hadn't expected things to come to this. In the days that followed, Huang Xiaoxue moved into the Wu family's home and rarely contacted Wang Shoulan anymore. As the wedding drew near, Chao Ming's parents offered a generous bride price of 800,000 yuan in cash and a luxury sedan. Wu Guoqiang and Chen Meiling were very pleased with the bride price, but they had other intentions in mind. They leaked the news to Wang Shoulan and hinted that the money should have been hers, since she had raised Huang Xiaoxue for more than 20 years. When Wang Shoulan heard this, her heart turned cold. She understood the Wu family's intentions. They wanted to pocket the bride price without bearing any moral criticism. She immediately decided to give Huang Xiaoxue one last bit of dignity. A week before the wedding, Wang Shoulan went to the Wu family home and, with a blank expression, handed over an envelope. "This is just a small token from me, to serve as Xiaoxue's dowry. I don't want a single cent of the bride price. Return it all to the Chao family." Wu Guoqiang opened the envelope, and his eyes lit up. Inside was 500,000 yuan in cash, all of it saved up by Wang Shoulan over the years through careful penny pinching. "Auntie, this is too much," Chen Meiling said awkwardly. Wang Shoulan replied coldly, "This isn't for you, it's for Xiaoxue." Hearing about it, Huang Xiaoxue hurried over to see Wang Shoulan. "Mom, you don't need to do this. Dad and Mom said the betrothal gift will be used to buy furniture and appliances for me and Chao Ming." Looking at her daughter's innocent expression, Wang Shoulan couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. She knew the Wu family couldn't possibly use all of the betrothal gift on Huang Xiaoxue, but she didn't want to expose it. Instead, she said calmly, "This is everything I've saved in my whole life. I originally planned to keep it for retirement. Now I'm giving it to you as your dowry. I hope you remember that no matter what happens, there is always someone in this world willing to give you the very best." Hearing this, a flicker of guilt flashed in Huang Xiaoxue's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by joy. "Thank you, Mom, after Chao Ming and I get married, we'll definitely take good care of you." Wang Shoulan simply nodded and said nothing more. She had already given up hope. Before leaving, Wang Shoulan asked, "Where's the wedding invitation?" Huang Xiaoxue hesitated. "Well, my parents said that, considering your status and background, you might feel uncomfortable attending the wedding." So, Wang Shoulan understood. The Wu family looked down on her background and were afraid she would embarrass herself at the wedding. She gave a bitter smile. "I understand." As she turned and left, Wang Shoulan's back looked especially thin and lonely. Huang Xiaoxue stood there, feeling a little uneasy, but that feeling was soon swept away by the joy of the wedding. On the wedding day, Huang Xiaoxue wore a white wedding dress, her face beaming with happiness. Wu Guoqiang and Chen Miling, as the bride's parents sat at the main table, looking smug. The wedding venue was not lavishly decorated, in sharp contrast to the Wu family's usual extravagance. Huang Xiaoxue was a little disappointed by this, but thinking that a new life was about to begin, she said nothing. Before the ceremony began, Chao Ming's parents noticed that the wedding setup was clearly much more modest than what had been agreed upon, and their expressions darkened. Chao Ming's mother complained softly. "We gave such a hefty bride price, why is the wedding so shabby?" Wu Xiaojie happened to overhear this and had a thought. He had long been unhappy about his parents favoring his sister, and this might be a chance to expose something. Halfway through the wedding, the MC invited both sets of parents onto the stage to give speeches. Beaming with pride, Wu Guoqiang thanked the Chao family for their kindness and promised to treat Huang Xiaoxue as his own daughter. His words drew rounds of applause. But Wu Xiaojie and the audience kept sneering. As it was time for Chao Ming's father to speak, Wu Xiaojie suddenly stood up, raised the wine glass in his hand, and said, "I'd like to say a few words too." Everyone froze, not knowing what Wu Xiaojie was up to. A bad feeling suddenly rose in Huang Xiaoxue's heart. Wu Xiaojie walked onto the stage with a mocking smile. "Today is my sister's big day. As her younger brother, I want to especially thank the Chao family for their generosity. The 800,000 betrothal gift really gave our Wu family a lot of face." The people below the stage started whispering, unable to figure out what Wu Xiaojie meant. Wu Xiaojie went on, "But where that money actually ended up, I'm afraid even my sister herself doesn't know." "Right, Dad, Mom, why don't you tell everyone how that 800,000 was spent?" Wu Guoqiang's face instantly turned livid. He stepped forward to grab his son, but Wu Xiaojie dodged him. "Let everyone guess, was it used to prepare a dowry for my sister?" Wu Xiaojie looked around, his gaze finally landing on Huang Xiaoxue. "No, most of that money was used to buy me a house. My dad said this was what they owed me, because for all these years, they focused all their attention on finding my sister and neglected me." The room erupted in an uproar. Huang Xiaoxue felt as if struck by lightning, unable to believe her ears. Chao Ming's face went from red to pale, then from pale to green, and finally turned ashen. Wu Xiaojie still wasn't done. "You may not know this, but the money for my sister's dowry was actually given by her adoptive mother, an entire 500,000. That old woman, who made a living by scavenging trash, spent her life savings just to give my sister a decent send-off. And what about our Wu family? We took the betrothal gift from someone else's family, yet not a dime came from us. How ironic." Huang Xiaoxue, hearing this, blacked out and nearly fainted. Chao Ming caught her, but the tenderness in his eyes was gone. In its place was a chilling coldness. Chao Ming's father stood up angrily. "Mr. Wu, what's going on here? Shouldn't the betrothal gift our family gave be used on Xiaoxue?" Wu Guoqiang was sweating profusely, stammering as he tried to explain. Seeing this, Chen Miling hurriedly jumped in. "In-laws, please don't get the wrong idea. We plan to use this money to buy furniture and appliances for Xiaoxue and Mingming's home. We were only temporarily borrowing part of it to help Xiao Jia buy a house. We'll pay it back very soon." Chao Ming let out a cold laugh. "Borrowing? Did you ever ask Xiaoxue and me for our opinion?" Only then did Huang Xiaoxue come to her senses. Looking at Wu Guoqiang and Chen Miling in disbelief, she asked, "Dad, Mom, is this true?" Embarrassed and enraged, Wu Guoqiang shoved Wu Xiaojie aside. "What nonsense are you talking about? This brat has loved lying since he was little. Don't believe a word he says." Wu Xiaojie sneered. "I'm lying, then show me the proof. Where did the 500,000 yuan dowry go? Don't tell me you used it all to buy me a house." That remark hit like a hammer blow, completely igniting the powder keg on the scene. Chao Ming's family erupted in outrage, accusing the Wu family of deception. The guests were whispering among themselves, and the wedding scene had descended into chaos. Chao Ming gripped Huang Xiaoxue's hand tightly, his eyes full of disappointment. "Xiaoxue, did you know about all this?" Tears streaming down her face. Huang Xiaoxue shook her head. "I didn't know. I really didn't know." Chao Ming let out a sigh and released Huang Xiaoxue's hand. "I always thought you were someone who knew how to repay kindness, but I never expected you to let your parents treat the elderly man who raised you for more than 20 years like that. In that case, there's no need to continue this wedding." After saying that, Chao Ming turned and walked away. His parents followed in anger. Huang Xiaoxue wanted to go after him, but her legs felt as if they had been filled with lead and she couldn't move. Wu Guoqiang and Chen Miling looked at each other in dismay, not knowing how to salvage the situation. In the end, they announced that the wedding was cancelled and asked the guests to head back first. After the guests had left, the hotel manager found Wu Guiqiang and demanded the remaining balance. Wu Guiqiang, however, claimed he had no money and tried to stall the shop manager flew into a rage the moment he heard it. We had a deal before, so why are you backing out now? If you don't settle the bill today, you're not leaving. Just as the standoff dragged on, Chao Ming's parents showed up. They took one look at the disheveled Wu family and shook their heads before paying all the expenses. Before leaving, Chao Ming's father said meaningfully, "Mr. Wu, some people look glamorous on the outside but are actually good for nothing by comparison. That old man who collects scraps is the one with real character." Those words landed like a slap in the face, severely striking Wu Guiqiang and Chen Meiling. They were so ashamed they could only leave in disgrace. Huang Xiaoxue stood in the empty wedding venue, her wedding dress crumpled and her makeup half ruined. At last, she understood just how terribly she had erred. In pursuit of so-called respectability, she abandoned the man who truly loved her and threw herself into the arms of her hypocritical and greedy birth parents, and now she had lost everything: her fiancé, her dignity, and most of all, her mother's love. As night fell, Huang Xiaoxue walked aimlessly through the streets alone. Before she knew it, her feet had carried her to that all-too-familiar place, Wang Shoulan's home. Huang Xiaoxue stood outside Wang Shoulan's door, too afraid to knock. It was already late at night, and the faint glow from inside made the place seem especially warm. She took a deep breath and gently rapped on the wooden door that had been with her throughout her childhood. The door opened. Wang Shoulan looked at her daughter standing outside in a wrinkled wedding dress, surprise flickering in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. She said nothing, only stepped aside to make room for her to enter. After Huang Xiaoxue came in, the two fell silent. Wang Shoulan made a cup of hot tea, set it in front of her, then sat down, quietly watching her. "Mom." Huang Xiaoxue opened her mouth, but didn't know how to begin. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes full of exhaustion and confusion. Wang Shoulan waited, neither pressing her nor asking questions, just as she had years ago when waiting for her daughter to come home from school. The wedding was called off. Huang Xiaoxue finally said, her voice hoarse and hollow, "Wu Xiaojie exposed what they had done about the bride price and the dowry you gave me." Wang Shoulan nodded, showing no surprise. "I guessed as much, otherwise, you wouldn't have come to see me in a wedding dress. You knew all along they'd do this." Huang Xiaoxue looked up and asked in confusion, "I wasn't sure exactly what would happen, but I knew they weren't truly good to you." Wang Shoulan's voice was calm, without a trace of reproach. "People who truly love you will give to you, not think about what they can get from you." Huang Xiaoxue lowered her head, tears fell into the teacup, sending ripples across the surface. "I was wrong, Mom. I was blinded by so-called blood ties and respectability, and I hurt you." Wang Shoulan did not respond right away. She got up and walked to the window, gazing at the starry sky outside in silence for a long time. "Mom, are you just going to ignore me like this?" Huang Xiaoxue lifted her tear-streaked face, her voice pleading. "I know I don't know how to be grateful. I've failed to repay your kindness in raising me, but please forgive me." Wang Shoulan turned around, her eyes showing neither anger nor joy, only deep exhaustion. "Xiaoxue, this isn't about forgiveness or not forgiving. It's about something else. You chose the life you thought was better, and I respected your choice, but now that you've failed and come back to me, is that really right?" Huang Xiaoxue was stung by those words and fell silent for a moment. She had never imagined her mother would face her with such calm composure. In her memory, no matter what mistakes she made, Wang Shoulan always accepted her and forgave her. I didn't come back to find you because I failed," Huang Xiaoxue tried to explain, but as soon as the words left her mouth, even she thought they sounded hollow and powerless. "Is that so?" Wang Shoulan let out a bitter smile. "If the wedding had gone ahead smoothly, would you have come back? If the Wu family hadn't taken the betrothal gifts and dowry, would you have thought of me?" Huang Xiaoxue could no longer hold it in and burst into tears. "I don't know, I really don't know, but now I understand. In this world no one truly cares for me or loves me except you." Wang Shoulan walked over and quietly looked at her daughter, who was crying her heart out. After more than 20 years of mother-daughter love, how could it simply be erased? She felt heartbroken, but she also knew that indulging her would only keep Huang Xiaoxue from ever growing up. "Xiaoxue, do you know what my greatest wish in this life is?" Wang Shoulan asked softly. Huang Xiaoxue looked up and shook her head through tear-filled eyes. "I hope you can be strong and independent, make your own judgments, and not lose yourself over money or appearances." Wang Shoulan's voice was gentle but firm. "I raised you not for anything in return, but so that you could grow into a person with dignity." Listening to her mother's words, Huang Xiaoshui gradually calmed down. She began to reflect on everything she had done during this time. In her pursuit of so-called decency and a complete family, she had abandoned the person who loved her most, only to end up with nothing. Mom, what should I do now? Huang Xiaoshui asked helplessly, like a lost child. Wang Shoulan sighed and finally reached out to gently stroke her daughter's hair. First, take off that wedding dress and have a hot bath, then get a good night's rest. Tomorrow, we'll talk about the future. Feeling her mother's warm hand, Huang Xiaoshui burst into tears again. She threw her arms tightly around Wang Shoulan, nestling in her mother's arms like she used to when she was little. The next morning, when Huang Xiaoshui woke up, she found herself sleeping in her old bedroom. Outside the window, the sun was shining brightly, and the air was filled with the familiar aroma of home-cooked food. She changed into the clothes Wang Shoulan had prepared and walked out of the room. Wang Shoulan was busy in the kitchen. When she saw Huang Xiaoshui, she smiled and said, "Up already? Go wash up and come eat. I made you your favorite shrimp and steamed egg." At the dining table, Huang Xiaoshui ate the food her mother had made. Feeling the long-lost warmth of home, gathering her courage, she said, "Mom, I want to explain things clearly to Chao Ming. He's not a bad person, he was just hurt by what I and the Wu family did." Wang Shoulan nodded. "That's what you should do, no matter what the outcome is. At least you'll have a clear conscience. Also," Huang Shui hesitated for a moment, "I want to move back and stay for a while. Would that be okay? This will always be your home." Wang Shoulan replied simply, her eyes filled with relief. In the days that followed, Huang Shui began to re-examine her life. Next, let's listen to the next story. For 40 years of marriage, I went to the temple every year to pray for my family. By the time I came back on Mid-Autumn Festival, Li Jiji had already moved into my home. It felt like I had fallen into an ice cave. Li Jiji was the unattainable first love in Song Yunqi's youth. Song Yun explained, "Don't read too much into it. Jiji is all alone and has no one to rely on." I just couldn't rest assured her. Even my own son blamed me, saying, "Dad is already so old, and all he wants is to take care of his former sweetheart. You should be generous and let them have this." I quietly packed my bags and left home that same night. But later, this whole family was crying and begging me to come back. On the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, I had just returned from the temple and reached my front door when I heard laughter coming from inside. When I pushed the door open, the lively scene inside made me freeze for a moment. An elderly woman was sitting on the sofa. Her white hair made her seem about my age, though I had no idea which relative had come to celebrate the holiday. I set down the things in my hands. "These were gifts for Song Yunqi and the children. You're back. This is Jiji, you should know her." "Right," Song Yunqi said, the corners of his mouth still curving with a smile that never quite faded. My hand froze at once, and I stood there, rooted to the spot. Li Jiji, I knew that name. She had been Song Yunqi's unattainable first love back in his youth. My son looked up from his phone. "Mom, Aunt Li and her grandson are spending Mid-Autumn Festival at our place. They're staying in the room next to yours. Go change the bedsheets." My nose stung with pain as I stared in disbelief at the absurd scene before me. Why is she staying at my house? Doesn't she have a home of her own? And why didn't any of you ask what I thought? The smile on Song Yunqi's face slowly faded, and he looked at me impatiently. "This is my house. I'll let whoever I want stay here." My daughter was teasing Li Jiji's little grandson in her arms when she turned to blame me. "Oh, Mom, don't be so petty. She's only here to spend the holiday. Be generous, and stop making such a big deal out of it." My tears finally broke free and streamed down in torrents. "Get out. I don't agree to you living in my house." I stepped forward, trying to shove Li Jiji out, determined to defend my home in the most forceful way possible. But Song Yunqi stood in front of her. Li Jiji looked at Song Yunqi pitifully, tears welling in her eyes. "Yunqi, it looks like sister-in-law doesn't like me. I'd better leave." Song Yunqi shoved me aside without a trace of mercy and shielded Li Jiji behind him. "I was the one who asked Jiji to come. Don't blame her." I felt completely drained, as if every ounce of strength had been sucked out of me. A strand of white hair at my temple was blown loose by the wind, covering the reddened corner of my eye. After calming myself down, I swallowed the grief and fury inside me and said softly, "Fine, since you all want her to stay, then I'll leave." Looking at the lively living room in front of me, I picked up the bags I had just set down and went straight out to find my friend Shin Guifan in the neighboring building. She was a widowed old woman, about the same age as me, and she comforted me. "Stay with me for now. My daughter is coming back today anyway. That whole heartless family isn't worth your worry. You should just spend the Mid-Autumn Festival with me. At our age, we're basically halfway in the grave. We should enjoy ourselves while we can, don't you think?" With her comfort, I gradually calmed down. That evening, Chin Guifan's daughter came back, and the three of us had a warm, lively dinner together. Halfway through the meal, the doorbell rang, and my son had come looking for me. He looked down at me with disapproval. "Mom, you're already this old, and you're still pulling the runaway act. We've all been waiting for you to eat. Hurry up and come back with me." I was silent for a moment before saying, "I'm not going back." "You go ahead, can't you understand plain language? The whole family's starving and waiting for you to come eat. Hurry up and come back with me." He stepped forward to grab me, trying to drag me out, but Chen Guifan hurried over to stop him. "Xiao Song, is that any way to talk to your mother? Show some respect." I raised a hand to reassure her, not wanting to drag her into our family dispute. "I'll go with you, don't touch me." My son snorted and let go without hesitation. "Guifan, I'm heading back, don't worry, and have a good Mid-Autumn festival with your daughter." I patted her on the shoulder and followed my son home. When Song Yunqi saw me come back, his eyes lit up for a moment before he quickly pretended not to care. "You're not a kid anymore, so why are you still throwing a tantrum? If you disappear without a word again, I won't go looking for you." I shot him a glance, said nothing, and went straight to the dining table to sit down. Seeing that I was ignoring him, Song Yunqi was about to say something else when Li Jiji held him back. "It's already getting late, let's all eat quickly and not miss the moon viewing." She acted like the lady of the house, neatly and efficiently arranging everyone's seats. "I made this meal, so go ahead and try it. Let me know how it tastes. I haven't cooked in a long time, and I'm not even sure if I still have the touch." Their son ate without looking up. "Aunt Li, you're way better at cooking than my mom. This dish is delicious." Their daughter chimed in too. "Yeah, the dishes my mom makes are so bland." "Really? I'm glad you like it." Li Jiji smiled as she served Song Yunqi some food, her tone so sweet it could melt water. "Yunqi, hurry and eat. I remember this used to be your favorite dish. I wonder if it still tastes the same. How could it have changed? Your cooking is just as good as ever." The warm, harmonious scene made it seem as if they were the real family. They'd all forgotten that Song Yunqi wasn't in good health and couldn't handle greasy or salty food, so I had been cooking light meals for 10 years straight because he wasn't well. I thought about how to put together a proper, balanced diet and how to make the dishes taste more to his liking. All these years, I never once got a word of praise from him, but come to think of it, after all these years of always giving, no one in this family has ever said, "You've worked hard." I felt a little lost. Was there any point in living this kind of life? After dinner, everyone sat on the balcony to admire the moon. Laughter and chatter filled the air, lively and bustling. I sat alone in the bedroom as moonlight streamed in, casting a cool, pale glow across the floor. Memories of the past came flooding back. From the time I married Song Yunqi at 25 to now, at 65, we have spent 40 years together. Even though he wasn't good at expressing himself, we still treated each other with great respect and never had a serious quarrel. It wasn't until he praised Li Jiji at the dinner table that I realized he could be so warm and enthusiastic. The room was quiet, with a faint chill in the air, and I curled up into myself. I still remember the year of the heavy snowfall. It was just as cold. Song Yunqi came down with a high fever, and we were still living in the countryside, far from the hospital. The snow had piled up nearly to my shins, but I still carried Song Yunqi step by step to the hospital. After he woke up, he tenderly touched the chilblains on my face and kept apologizing to me. My heart raced at his touch, and a sweet warmth spread through me like honey poured over my soul. That was the first time I ever saw him cry, and after that, it was as if he had forgotten all about Li Jiji and focused on building this home with me. Those days were truly warm and steady. I drifted off in my memories, and then the sound of a door opening startled me awake, leaving me a little dazed. The room was dim, and when Song Yunqi walked in, I couldn't see him clearly. For a moment, I almost thought he had come to find me on that snowy day years ago. I was just about to speak when he cut me off. "Shawan, I want Gigi to live with us. For one, we happen to have an empty room. For another, Gigi's husband has passed away, and aside from her little grandson, she doesn't have any other family. I'm worried about her. What do you think?" In an instant, I snapped, fully awake. The man in front of me was the 65-year-old Song Yunqi, not the Song Yunqi from that snowy day. So it turns out people's hearts change all too easily. "I don't agree." I sat up and looked at him, enunciating each word. "I don't agree." My fingers trembled faintly beneath the blanket, my heart feeling as if it were being torn and battered, aching with a bitter, piercing pain. I held back my emotions and confronted Song Yunqi. He rubbed his temples, looking somewhat impatient, and shot me a disapproving look. "I thought you were always so generous. Why do you have to keep clinging to what happened with Gigi? We're both this old now, and my health isn't good either. Can't you indulge me just this once?" "What do you mean? Am I stopping you from running off together?" "Song Yunqi, if you bring her here to live, then what does that make me? tears still streamed down in the end. They say old people have no tears, so why were mine pouring out uncontrollably? Song Yunchi grew even colder, his tone laced with irritation. I only thought Gigi was pitiful. So I wanted to bring her here to live. We've been married for so many years. Are you really doubting me now? The house is mine, this time, whether you agree or not. I'm bringing her here to live. If that's how it is, then why even ask me? Does my opinion matter? I wiped away my tears, my rough hands covered in calluses, proof of everything I'd done for this family. Song Yunchi coughed twice, perhaps not wanting to argue with me, and walked straight out. The next morning, Song Yunchi was gone first thing at dawn. It had originally just been the two of us living here. After our son and daughter got jobs, they both moved out every morning. I got up early to make breakfast, then cleaned, did the laundry, brewed tea for Song Yunchi, and went to the market to buy groceries. After lunch, I still had to prepare his medicine, massage him, and water the flowers. He had taught school when he was young and had all sorts of health issues, so I learned massage techniques to help ease his discomfort on Saturdays and Sundays. I also had to help look after the grandchildren, so those days were even busier. The house was empty and unusually quiet. Looking around at everything so familiar, I was suddenly struck by how I had endless things to do every single day. It seemed that ever since I got married, I had spent all my time revolving around everyone else in the family. I had never really had a life of my own. The front door suddenly opened, and Song Yunchi and Li Jiji came back, along with her little grandson, Shawan. Come here, I brought you breakfast from the place on the corner. I remember that's your favorite. Song Yunchi eagerly handed me the breakfast. Though he was already old, his smile still had a reassuring warmth to it. Behind me, Li Jiji was busy talking to her little grandson. I walked over to the dining table, took out a bun from the bag, and took a bite. It was the tofu filling I hated most. Song Yunchi only remembered that I liked the breakfast from the shop on the corner, but he didn't remember that I hated tofu. The one who liked tofu was Li Jiji, not me. How is it? Is it good? I bought it especially for you. He poured me a cup of warm water and looked at me expectantly. The tofu taste in my mouth grew stronger and stronger. I kept a blank expression and nodded. I knew you'd like it. Gigi said you were upset and asked me to cheer you up. It was actually her who reminded me to buy breakfast, Song Yun said, carefully watching my expression, trying to persuade me. What I said yesterday was indeed harsh. But you know my health is poor and I don't have much time left, and with Gigi, it's only friendship. She's alone, raising her grandson by herself, and I can't bear it. We're both so old already. Why go through all this trouble and mess around? He coughed a few times. He couldn't stop, then continued, this is my only wish, Shawan, you'll grant it for me, won't you? Li Jiji came over and patted his back, then looked at me earnestly. Sister Shawan, Yunchi just feels sorry for me. I'm getting old too. Living together won't mean anything. Can't you give me a chance, please? I'm begging you. She sounded pitiful enough, but the triumphant look in her eyes gave her away. For a moment, it almost seemed like they were the ones meant to grow old together, and I was the villain tearing apart a pair of lovers. The tofu taste in my mouth churned in my stomach, making me want to throw up. What was the point of living like this? Fine, I'll give you what you want. I looked closely at the ecstatic Song Yunchi in front of me and gave up completely. Sister Shawan, thank you so much. I'm so happy. Li Jiji burst into tears, and Song Yunchi patiently wiped them away. I didn't want to watch them being affectionate, so I turned and went back into the room. After locking the door, I started packing my things. The clothes in the wardrobe that belonged to me were piled into a tiny corner, huddled tightly beside Song Yunchi's coat. I packed them one by one into my suitcase, erasing every trace of myself from this home. I don't know where I'm going. I just want to get out of this house, the place that has kept me trapped for 40 years. I stared blankly at the packed suitcase for a while, then took out my old phone and called Chen Guifan. When she heard what had happened, she urged me to stay at her place, sounding so anxious she seemed ready to come get me herself. A sour ache rose to my eyes, and I wiped away my tears. The world hadn't been completely cruel to me after all. At least at a time like this, I still had someone willing to take me in. When I opened the door, everyone in the family was there. It was the weekend, and my son and daughter were bringing the grandchildren over for me to look after. Mom, what are you dragging a suitcase around for? My son asked while cracking sunflower seeds, their shells falling to the floor. With no one willing to clean them up, I thought for a few seconds, then answered, I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while. As soon as the words left my mouth, everyone in the room turned to look at me, each and every face filled with reproach. Mom, you're already so old. Stop making a fuss. Go make dinner already. Your grandson is starving. My daughter rolled her eyes and went on watching TV. Sister Shawan, are you still mad at me? But you already promised I could stay, Li Jiji said timidly, her tears hanging on the verge of falling. Though she was old, she still looked pitifully delicate and vulnerable. Mom, can you stop making a scene? Dad is already this old, and all he wants is to take care of Aunt Lee. Can't you be a little more generous and let them have this one wish? You run off from home every other day. It's so annoying, my son shouted at me, his tone filled with obvious impatience. It was infuriating. My daughter chimed in right after him. Mom, you should learn from Aunt Lee too. You're so stubborn. No wonder Dad can't stand you. I tightened my grip on the suitcase handle, and the mix of anger and bitterness in my heart burned so fiercely I could barely stand. I couldn't understand why the child I had raised with my own hands would side so completely with outsiders, not giving a thought to all I had done for them. Enough, Song Yunqi cut them off, his brows full of anger and disgust. If you want to leave, then go. Just don't come back later begging to return. I won't. I looked straight at him and said those words. Then I turned away without hesitation. From that day on, I stayed at Qin Guifen's house. I didn't have much savings on me, and she said I didn't need to pay her, just cook for her. But I still felt uneasy, so I busied myself tidying up her house. Shawan, Qin Guifen held me back and said gently, have you noticed that ever since you came here, you've been working the whole time? I sheepishly pulled back my hand from wiping the table, like a child who'd done something wrong. I've lived like this for 40 years, I have to work every day. If I'm not working, I don't know what to do. I lowered my head and a tear dropped onto the table. It's okay, don't cry, I'm not blaming you. Qin Guifan hugged me and comforted me softly. Now that you've finally escaped that sea of suffering, why not try finding some hobbies for yourself? Life still has to go on, but living it the way you like is always much better than muddling through it in a daze. My daughter just signed me up for a seniors tour group. Why don't you come with me? This time we're going to Inner Mongolia. Us old ladies need to keep up with the times too. Getting older doesn't matter. We can always get there if we just keep walking. I hear the lamb and beef in Inner Mongolia are especially delicious. We have to try them. And there's also the Naadam festival. I was gradually drawn in by the beautiful sights she described, and agreed to travel with her. Unlike me, Qin Guifan was a very proactive person. She helped me switch to a smartphone, saying that photos would look better that way. After all, one has to leave behind some memories in life. The next day, we set off. There were more than 50 people in the tour group. I met many lively, upbeat older women like Qin Guifan, and also others like me, older women who had spent their lives caring for their families and, in old age, finally had time to steal a little leisure for themselves. Among them was the oldest one, already 75. We all called her Big Sister. She said she signed up for the tour after getting divorced. I asked why she got divorced at such an advanced age. She smiled and said that the old man was insisting on living with his ex. I spent my whole life working hard for this family, and in the end my children didn't understand me, and my husband didn't respect me. In a fit of anger, I divorced him, but after the divorce, I realized I finally didn't have to work myself to the bone every day anymore. That damned old man had been leeching off me day after day. At my age, I deserve to enjoy life myself too, so I signed up for this tour group. As women, we're always contributing to the family. After getting married, we end up revolving around our husbands and children. What's the point of that? I only realized in my 70s that living is about living for yourself. Only when you're happy does life have meaning. You do well to learn from my mistake and make the most of the time you have left to enjoy life. Sunlight fell on her face, lighting up every wrinkle, while the glass window reflected the azure sky and the endless grassland beyond. Cattle and sheep rested peacefully, and the herders rode freely across the plains on horseback. In that instant, my heart was struck as if by lightning, and I suddenly understood something. To be alive, you have to do more than eat and get caught up in the daily grind. You also have to see the sun. If death means never seeing the sun again, then while you're still alive, you should make sure to really see it. Tears fell without me even noticing, but this time my heart no longer felt pain or numbness, only warmth. The tour group stayed in Inner Mongolia for a week, and Qin Guifan and I took lots of photos here. Very seriously, when I bought my smartphone, I even said it was such a waste of money and that I definitely wouldn't use it. But in reality, I never put my phone down and wanted to take a picture of everything I saw. Even a flower that could be found anywhere was beautiful, and even a cloud drifting by at random was beautiful. The sunshine on the grassland generously bathed everyone, and I lay there, getting thoroughly sunburned. It felt like decades had passed, but really it was only a bit of wind and weathering. On the way back, Qin Guifan and I were both reluctant to part, so we added the tour group sisters on WeChat and promised to travel together again next time. Travel. After getting home, Qin Guifan and I were both exhausted and aching all over. my body just isn't built for this. I can't do it, no way, we need to exercise more from now on, if we're not in good shape. How are we supposed to travel? Chinguafan said, rubbing her lower back with a grimace. I nodded, that's true, we should get out and walk around more. Oh, right, I've noticed you actually have a real talent for photography, Chinguafan said, slapping her thigh as excitement bubbled up. You like taking pictures, don't you? Well, these days all the seniors are into Douyin. Why don't you post the photos you take? You might just meet some like-minded people. I hesitated, sounding a little unsure. Do you think that would work? I feel like my photos are pretty average. Oh, you just haven't realized it yourself. Didn't the ladies in our group all say your photos looked great? Go ahead and post them, I'll get them to like your stuff. With a wave of her hand, Chinguafan immediately helped me set up a Douyin account. The two of us were quietly discussing it when someone suddenly knocked on the door. I put down my phone and went to open the door, where I saw my son, daughter-in-law, daughter, and son-in-law anxiously waiting outside. As soon as they saw me, they frowned and grabbed me. Mom, where have you been these past few days? We couldn't get through on the phone, and when we knocked, no one was home. Hurry up and come back with us, your grandsons and granddaughters are waiting for you to watch them. I stepped back a few paces and shook off their hands. I don't want to watch them, you handle your own kids from now on. And if that doesn't work, isn't there still Li Gigi? What good is she? I'd be grateful if she didn't end up hurting my son, and even then, Dad still sides with her, saying she doesn't have much experience looking after children. Then how does she take such good care of her own grandchild? At that, my daughter-in-law immediately blew up, throwing all the blame at Li Gigi. I immediately understood, so it was because Li Gigi couldn't handle the kids that they thought of me. But I'm not their free nanny, I'm not going. Figure it out yourselves. As soon as I said that, I slammed the door shut and ignored the shouting outside. Curses, what's wrong, Shawan? Is it your son and daughter causing trouble again? Chinguafan showed me the video she had just posted. It already had dozens of likes, all from the ladies in our travel group. The comments were full of praise, flattering me to the skies and back. And the little bit of anger I just felt quickly faded away. Yeah, no one's taking care of my grandson and granddaughter, so they came looking for me. Chinguafan curled her lip. You've basically given birth to 2 pieces of roasted pork. It's fine, I'm not paying them any mind. I waved my hand. I still had plenty of things I wanted to do, so where would I find the time to babysit for them after that? Chinguafan and I went for walks and exercised every day. In the morning, we'd go to the market together to buy groceries. I'd do the cooking, and she'd help me out. After eating, we'd talk about how to take photos, and sometimes we'd even try our hand at square dancing. In the evening, we'd take a leisurely stroll around the neighborhood, stopping to chat with anyone we knew. Many times, we ran into Song Yunqi and Li Gigi. When he saw me, he looked like he wanted to say something but hesitated, but I'd turn away at once. Don't give him any chance. Days passed like a quietly flowing stream, cheerful and peaceful. I often posted photos I'd taken on Douyin. Along with my thoughts, little by little, I gained more and more followers. They were all lovely young people who would message me privately to wish me good health and compliment how beautiful my photos were. I was always moved by their sincere words. One day, a reporter suddenly came to my door to interview me. I sat on the sofa, at a complete loss, while Chinguafan kept comforting me. Outside the door, the neighbors and friends had packed in to watch the show. The questions at first were all pretty routine, asking how I came up with the idea to post photos on online platforms. I answered them one by one, until the reporter asked about my husband. The smile on my face slowly faded, and I told them everything that had happened before. It was nothing more than the story of an elderly housewife who wasn't respected by her children, and who left home again after her husband's first love came back. I never expected that a few days later, my interview would shoot to the top of the trending list and draw widespread attention. Many people left comments under my video account, and a lot of them supported me, saying that women's worth should be recognized and that they weren't meant exclusively for the kitchen and the home, so I gave it a like. There were also a small number of people who scolded me for still putting myself out there at my age and accused me of stirring up attention for clout. I ignored them all. Many people in the neighborhood found out about this and started pointing fingers at Song Yunqi and Bai Wan. Even my son and daughter were recognized too. They came to my house making a scene, blaming me for airing everything out and causing them to be shunned by their co-workers. Mom, can you reflect on why Dad doesn't like you? Someone as unprincipled and unconcerned with the bigger picture as you is bound to be disliked. No, I'm the one unlucky enough to have been born to you. My son glared at me as if I were his enemy. My daughter said nothing, but her eyes were just as cold and rude. I looked at the two people in front of me. They had once clung to me when they were little, obediently saying, "Mom, you've worked so hard." How had they turned into this? Now that they were grown, maybe they had simply gotten used to my constant care and sacrifices, but habit is a terrifying thing. It breeds contempt for the person who gives you everything. I couldn't outtalk the two of them on my own, so all I could do was stay silent. Just then, a voice came from the hallway. "This is the place." Right, phew, it wasn't easy to find. Where are Shawan and Guifan? Why don't I see them? It was the voices of the women from the travel group. More than a dozen of them all showed up at our doorstep at once, and I was both shocked and delighted. "Why are you all here? Come in and have a seat." I hurriedly invited them inside. "No need to be so polite, Shawan. These two are your daughter and son, right? The ones who side with their cheating dad. What kind of ingrates are they? And they still have the nerve to come here and bully you." A dozen odd old ladies went all out, scolding the son and daughter until they fled with their tails between their legs. I invited them in for tea. "Guifan just went to her daughter's place today, so she won't be back for a while. No rush, no rush. There's a travel group discount going on lately, so a few of us signed up again. We just happened to be passing by your place, so we thought we'd come take a look." Just look at you all, Shawan. Did you know your old man and that homewrecker have been getting torn apart online? I froze and shook my head. I don't usually go online, and I hardly ever watch short videos. That homewrecker posted a video to clear things up, saying they'd been hopelessly in love for ages and only didn't end up together because of reality, and that the old man had absolutely no feelings for you. But so what? She's still a homewrecker. Honestly, she must have lost her mind. Once she posted that video, people tore her to shreds. No wonder I hadn't seen Song Yunchi and Lee Gigi lately. They'd been too scared to step outside after getting dragged so hard online. More than a dozen of my old girlfriends stayed for tea and then left. We made plans to take a trip to Guizhou together next time, but just after they left, another uninvited guest showed up. Lee Gigi came to my door, and she was no longer the polished woman she used to be. She looked exhausted. "Let's talk." She let herself in and sat down on the sofa. I stared at her blankly. "We don't really have anything to talk about. People have been insulting us every day now. Yunchi and I don't even dare go out anymore. Are you satisfied?" she said through gritted teeth, the wrinkles on her face twisting into a hideous snarl. I calmly took a sip of tea. "I only spoke the truth. What exactly did you come here for? Just say it. You clear up the video, and I'll give Yunchi back to you. How about that?" She stared at me, convinced she was offering a tempting deal. Certain I'd agree, but the night Yunchi asked me to let her stay, he was already dead to me. That's not much of a deal. I don't care about him, and I don't want to see him. If you came all this way just to say that, then you can leave. I made a shooing gesture. Lee Gigi's face turned extremely ugly. "Fine, you win, I'll move out." She immediately got up and walked out, stirring a light, airy breeze. Sure enough, just as she had said, she moved out with her grandson. Chin Guifan gossiped to me that people living upstairs and downstairs in their building had already heard Song Yunchi and Baiwan arguing all the time. Sometimes it was over food, sometimes over housework. I smiled. Life isn't all romance and moonlight. There's also the daily grind. If two people never learn to respect and understand each other, their relationship will wear away sooner or later. Song Yunchi's arrogance and selfishness meant he would never be a proper husband. Even if another unforgettable love came along, they still wouldn't have a happy ending. After Lee Gigi left, Song Yun lived alone. He started coming to see me often. Hunched over, in clothes that never seemed to come clean, he tremblingly took my hand and begged me to come back. His eyes were clouded, his lips pale, and the age spots on his face had grown even worse, but I remained unmoved. "Shawan, I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me just this once? I can't handle those things well. I don't know how to brew medicine, and I can't cook. This family needs you, and I need you even more." He pleaded with me like a helpless child. I knew that if I went back, I would only fall into the same old pattern again. I wouldn't compromise, because that would be a betrayal of 40 years of my life. His coughing grew worse and worse, and I only left him with one line: "You should get yourself admitted to the hospital and hire a caregiver as soon as possible. The children may not be willing to take care of you." He was sobbing uncontrollably, as if he had been caught in a torrential downpour. After that, he never came again. One day, my daughter suddenly called me, but I was traveling out of town and had my phone turned off. When I finally got the call again, I was told that Song Yunchi had passed away. My daughter was on the other end, berating me for being cold and selfish, saying Dad wanted to see me one last time and I still hadn't answered the phone. I felt a little dazed, but on second thought, even if I had answered, I still wouldn't have been able to make it back to see him. Perhaps that was fate as well. In his will, Song Yunchi said he was leaving all his assets to me, and I accepted them calmly. Then I used the money to help elderly people and support girls who had been denied an education. I am still on the road, searching for my way in this world. Even if I missed 40 years of my life, even if I walked a little slower, that didn't matter. I still have plenty of time. In the past, I devoted myself entirely to my family. From here on out, I'll live for myself. Story 2. I've raised Hwasun's cat for 5 years, but tonight, it suddenly bit me as soon as I entered the door. Sitting in the car on the way to the hospital, I suddenly came to understand some cats can never be tamed to be truly affectionate. Cats are like this, and people are no different. So after I got home, I brought up the topic of divorce to Hwasun. He furrowed his brows and asked me in confusion, "Just because the cat bit you?" "Yeah, just because of it. Have you thought it through? There's only 1 month left until our 5th wedding anniversary." Hwasun was holding the cat in his arms, idly playing with its tail. It's strange to say that after Hwasun and I got married, he rarely came home, and the number of times he saw the cat could be counted on one's fingers. Obviously, I was the one who fed it every day, but it only liked Hwasun. I shifted my gaze away from the cat and said calmly, "I've thought it through. I'll leave the marriage with nothing. After you sign the papers, we can go through the divorce procedures tomorrow." After saying that, I placed the divorce agreement in front of Hwasun. Hwasun glanced at the documents on the table, then looked up at me with a frown. His tone was full of confusion. "Ran Qing, just because Cece bit you, you want to divorce me and give up our 5-year marriage?" Cece is the name Hwasun gave to that cat. Hearing Hwasun call it Cece raised its head and meowed affectionately, its voice very soft, completely different from the warning growls it usually gave me. "Yeah," I retracted my gaze and nodded. "Just because of it." This was true. I was really able to make up my mind to propose divorce to Hwasun, thanks to Cece. Yesterday, when the new drama was about to start filming, the director suddenly told me, "You've been replaced." I knew the actress who replaced me recently. Her name and Hwasun's frequently appeared on the hot search together. It was hard not to notice, coupled with the fact that the Hwa family was the investor of this drama. So without thinking, I directly called Hwasun. "Did you mean to replace me?" Hwasun's tone was nonchalant. "It was me." His attitude was tough, and the reason he gave me was, "The Hwa family doesn't need you to go out and earn money, you just need to take good care of Cece at home." With just one casual sentence from Hwasun, all the efforts I had made for this drama were in vain. I was forcefully sent home by my assistant. When I was changing shoes at the entrance, Cece suddenly rushed out and bit me. Looking at the wound on my arm, my emotions suddenly broke down. I had raised Cece for 5 years, but it still regarded me as an enemy. It hated me, never allowed me to get close, and would attack me if I wasn't careful. The cat was like this, and Hwasun was the same. We had been married for 5 years, and he was still cold to me. He still refused to make our marriage public. In the eyes of outsiders, he was the unmarried heir of the Hwa family, and I was an unknown actress in the entertainment industry. There was no connection between us at all. The only time we were associated was when we accidentally appeared in the same frame. I was sent to the hot search by his rumored girlfriend, who regarded me as the third party interfering in their relationship. I was really fed up with this kind of life. I didn't want to continue being a free nanny for a cat that couldn't be tamed, nor did I want to live this furtive life with Hwasun anymore. We didn't have children, and there was no property division. Divorce was simple, just like when we got married. We just went to get a marriage certificate together and had a meal with his parents. The only requirement for Hwasun to agree to marry me was to keep the marriage a secret, so we didn't have a wedding or any other ceremonies. After coming out of the divorce procedures, Hwasun motioned for me to get in the car. "Grandma wants to see you." I was suddenly a little dazed, as if time had gone back 9 years. At that time, my family had just gone bankrupt, and my parents had passed away. My relatives avoided me like the plague. For fear of being pestered by me, I had nowhere to go on the street when Hwasun suddenly appeared like a god. When people are in despair, a little bit of warmth given as charity will be infinitely magnified. So many years later, even though Hwasun bullied me and made me sad, I still remembered that day when he held my hand and said, "Come home with me, Grandma wants to see you." Grandma Hwa took pity on me and left me to live in the Hwa family. It wasn't until we became adults that she suddenly mentioned the engagement between me and Hwasun. "Your engagement was made since you were kids, but Grandma still wants to ask you first, are you willing to marry Hwasun?" My cheeks instantly turned bright red. I had always known about the engagement before my family went bankrupt. When I was young and full of youthful dreams, I dreamed of marrying Hwasun, but later, I didn't dare to have such dreams anymore. I still liked Hwasun, even more than before, but I also knew very well that I was just an orphan living under someone else's roof now. "Why don't you ask Hwasun first?" I knew Hwasun had someone he liked, So this engagement was destined to be annulled, but I didn't expect that Hwasun actually agreed. It was not until the second month after marriage that I accidentally learned the reason. You don't like Ran Qing, do you? Why did you suddenly marry her? The one speaking was Hwasun's good friend, He Zhao. Hwasun was leaning against the sofa, teasing the cat. He casually replied, Qing Yan married someone else, it doesn't matter who I marry. Qing Yan was the person Hwasun liked. I pursed my lips and took 2 steps back. Before leaving, I heard Hwasun say again, it's just a marriage of convenience. I won't touch anyone other than Qing Yan. Besides, I've always regarded Ran Qing as my sister. He Zhao taunted him, marrying your own sister. You're really disgusting. After returning to the Hua family, I stuffed the divorce certificate into my bag and went to see Grandma Hua alone. If it weren't for her, Hua Sun and the Hua family wouldn't have agreed to the divorce so easily. Grandma, thank you. Grandma Hua patted my hand. If it wasn't for me making you two get married, you wouldn't have suffered so much. I'm sorry to you. Originally, I asked Hwasun to let you raise Cece, thinking that he would often go and accompany you because of Cece. Grandma Hua didn't know that Hwasun valued Cece because Cece was given to him by the person he liked. I squatted down in front of her with my eyes downcast. Not saying a word, Grandma Hua sighed again. If that child of yours was still here, would it be? Hearing this, I immediately interrupted her. It's all in the past, Grandma. I didn't want to mention that child too much. When I was leaving, Grandma Hua gave me a bank card I knew I couldn't refuse, so I planned to give it to Hwasun and ask him to return it to Grandma Hua. When I found him, he was talking to Aunt Hua. Ran Qing has had it too good in the Hua family. She's never suffered. After she lives a hard life outside for a few days, she'll naturally come back and beg me to make up. I stood behind him, tugging at the corners of my mouth, smiling silently until Hwasun turned around and noticed me. His expression changed slightly, his lips moved, but in the end, he still didn't say anything. I smiled and handed the bank card from Grandma Hua to him, then left. After walking 2 steps, I still couldn't help but turn around and look at Hwasun. Hwasun, I won't come back. Hwasun's long and narrow eyes glanced at me, and he sneered, don't be so sure. I smiled gently, not saying anything more. After all these years, Hwasun still didn't know me at all. After leaving the Hua family, I immediately bought a plane ticket to Hong Kong. This time I was going there to fulfill my dream. When I was 18, I'd been in the entertainment industry for many years. Some of the artists who debuted at the same time as me have already become top-tier stars, while I'm still completely unknown. When I was studying, those teachers who praised me for having the looks of a leading actress, being full of talent and aura, could only sigh in disappointment when they mentioned me later. Once, when I went back to my alma mater, I happened to hear a teacher comment on me, the gods have blessed her with acting talent, but she just has to throw away the bowl. Before, I always thought that people couldn't have a perfect life. There are gains and losses. Just like Hwasun said, it's not easy to be Mrs. Hua. It really wasn't easy to be Mrs. Hua. The first request Hwasun made to me after we got married was to quit the entertainment industry. I tried my best to fight for myself. Being an actress is my dream, but in Hwasun's eyes, my dream seemed extremely ridiculous. He showed me undisguised mockery. Dream, Ran Qing, I don't want to hear you say this again. I've forgotten how I managed to persuade him to make a concession at that time. I only remember that Hwasun was very unhappy when he left that day. He said, if you want to keep acting, you have to do as I say. In order to meet his requirements, I could only take on some insignificant supporting roles. For me, being able to keep acting was enough. But later, paparazzi took pictures of me and him in the same frame. I was recognized as a third party by Hwasun's rumored girlfriend at that time and was scolded on the hot search. Can we make our relationship public? I begged Hwasun to clarify for me. We're husband and wife. Why should I be called a third party? I don't want to keep being cursed and abused by netizens. Hwasun didn't even look at me. His tone was cold. It's common for artists to be cyber-bullied. If you can't accept it, it only proves that you're not suitable to be in this industry. Ran Qing, you might as well take this opportunity to see yourself clearly and quit the industry as soon as possible. After that incident, I was in a state of being forced to quit the industry. I tried hard, but no director was willing to accept an actress with a bad reputation. Not long ago, I finally managed to pass the audition for a small role, but was replaced by Hwasun. I thought I had no chance to appear on the screen anymore, but on the day after I proposed divorce to Hwasun, I suddenly received an audition invitation from a director in Hong Kong. The director was Yu Buishi, a very young and new director. I found the address in the email. I introduced myself to the staff. Hello, my name is Ran Qing. Ran Qing, the staff member looked up at me, his expression exaggerated. He was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted and turned around to shout inside, "Axie." The staff member said something in Cantonese that I didn't understand, but that sentence made everyone present stop what they were doing and look at me until Yubuishi came out from inside. His face was dazzling and flamboyant. Not losing to male celebrities in the entertainment industry at all. I thought inappropriately, perhaps he shouldn't be a director. He should rely on his looks to make a living and be an idol. "Hello, I'm Yubuishi, Ran Qing." The audition went smoothly. I also stayed in Hong Kong and started preparing for this drama. The staff member I met that day was called On. After we got to know each other well, I couldn't help but be curious. "What did you say in Cantonese when we first met?" On spoke with a Hong Kong-style Mandarin accent. "Nothing much, I just said, Axie, your female lead is here." Axie has been preparing this drama for a long time. He's been waiting for you. Before, he sent you a lot of emails, but you didn't reply. Before, my email and social media accounts were managed by my assistant. All my work was selected by my assistant and then asked for Hwasun's opinion. It wasn't until after the divorce that I had the right to check my own email and choose my work. Ran Qing, you know what? An sneaked closer to me. "Actually, Axie is a die-hard fan of yours." Before he could finish speaking, a strong light shone from behind. It was Yubuishi bringing supper. Before An could even finish his sentence, he ran away as soon as he smelled the food. Seeing that I didn't move, Yubuishi came over and asked me, "Aren't you going to have some?" I shook my head, "Not hungry." The night wind in Hong Kong carried a salty and damp smell. Yubuishi sat down next to me. "Aren't you eating?" He also smiled and shook his head. "I'm not hungry either." I suddenly thought of what An said and glanced at Yubuishi uncomfortably. This glance was not obvious, but he still caught it. Yubuishi frowned slightly in confusion, then seemed to think of something. He looked back at An and asked me, "What did An say to you just now?" I hesitated for a moment before saying, "He said you're my fan." "Yeah," Yubuishi admitted it without hesitation. "I really am." I was stunned for a moment. Originally, I thought it was just An's joke. "I've watched all the works you've starred in." His words made me suddenly agree with An's description of him as a die-hard fan. Thinking of those works of mine that were labeled as bad movies, I rubbed my nose in embarrassment. Yubuishi seemed to see through my thoughts. He said, "The movies were really bad, but your performances were all great. Ran Qing, you're an excellent actress." Tonight, there were many clouds, and no starlight could be seen, but I seemed to see starlight shining in Yubuishi's eyes. After my parents passed away, it seemed like it had been a long time since I heard someone affirm me like this. I was stunned in place for a long time. During the 5 years of my marriage to Hwasun, I was always being denied. As an actress, I had no achievements. Hwasun said I wasn't suitable for acting and advised me to quit the industry early. As a wife, I couldn't win my husband's heart. My mother-in-law told me to find the reason in myself. It wasn't until I left the Hua family now, I suddenly realized that I wasn't as bad as they said. I was good, and there were people who could see my goodness. In Hong Kong, they pay attention to ceremonies. After a grand opening ceremony, the film crew officially started working. The next time I received a call from Hwasun was on a late night after filming. He seemed to have been drinking, his voice hoarse as he asked me, "Where did you go? Do you know that Cece is injured?" I didn't expect him to call me again. After being stunned for a while, I opened my mouth to remind him, "Hwasun, we're already divorced." After thinking for a while, I continued, "If you're too busy at work to take care of Cece, you can send it back to the old mansion or hire an aunt to take care of it." There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. I thought Hwasun might have sobered up a bit. He explained to me, "I drank too much. That's why I called you. Sorry for disturbing your rest." I gave a soft and walked to the window, telling him seriously, "Hwasun, don't call me again in the future." After that, I hung up the phone and blocked his number. By the way, these days of filming were exhausting. After taking a bath, I almost fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. When I woke up the next day, I suddenly saw the news in the group that the filming was suspended. I instantly woke up. I immediately called Yubuishi. After making several calls and he didn't answer, I called on Ran Qing. Axie said the filming will be suspended for these 2 days. The investor suddenly withdrew their funds, and Axie has gone to communicate with them. I don't know why, but I suddenly thought of the call Hwasun made last night. It wasn't that I was being oversensitive, it was just that when I thought of what he said when I left the Hua family Ran Qing has had it too good in the Hua family. She's never suffered. After she lives a hard life outside for a few days, she'll naturally come back and beg me to make up. A chill ran through my heart. Later, I finally received a message back from Yubuishi. It was just 2 words, "Open the door." I quickly put down the script and jogged to the door. Before opening the door, I was still thinking that I would ask him what had happened when I saw him, but when I saw the casual smile on Yubushi's face, the question on my lips was suddenly swallowed back. It's strange to say, but he seemed to have some kind of magic. As long as I saw him, all my restless emotions would be soothed. An said you didn't have dinner tonight. You said you wanted to try this place before. I passed by on my way back, so I packed a portion for you. Yubushi handed me the lunchbox in his hand. I took it and smelled the aroma of black bone chicken soup. I had heard from An that there was a place in Hong Kong that made very good black bone chicken soup. Unfortunately, I had been filming in the crew and never had the chance to try it. Thank you. After saying that, I suddenly noticed that the expensive watch Yubushi always wore on his wrist was gone. Not only the watch, but his clothes and shoes were also replaced with ordinary street-style goods. There was even a 15 yuan price tag on the collar of his T-shirt, and the key to his sports car was nowhere to be seen. I hesitated for a moment before asking, "Will the crew start filming tomorrow?" "Not yet." Yubushi paused, then continued, "Everyone has been very tired recently. Let's take 2 more days off." He sold his car, his watch, and maybe even his clothes and shoes, and since filming couldn't start yet, it meant the funding problem hadn't been solved. "Yubushi, can you do me a favor?" He was from Hong Kong and knew this place better than I did, so I asked him to help me find a reliable pawnshop. My mother's bracelet was the only valuable thing I had on me at the moment. When my family went bankrupt, this bracelet was originally taken to pay off debts later. Somehow it ended up in Hwasun's hands. The day after he was photographed being intimate with one of his rumored girlfriends by the paparazzi, I received this bracelet. I thought Hwasun probably regarded this as compensation for me during these years of marriage. I received a lot of compensation, but when I left the Hua family, I only took this bracelet with me. Over the past few years, the price of the bracelet had increased a lot. 9 million, is that enough? I handed the card to Yubushi. You sold the bracelet for me. Yubushi held the card, looking at me blankly. Emotions were surging in his eyes, and he had a look of being overwhelmed. You did it for me, you. I interrupted his speculation. It's not for you. It's for our movie, and it's for myself. Yubushi, you should know, it's been a long time since I've filmed. It's not that I don't want to, but no one comes to me. Even if I take the initiative to approach others, they don't want me. So Yubushi, do you know what this movie means to me? Yubushi's sports car was replaced with a second-hand motorcycle. He sat on the motorcycle, his long legs touching the ground. The expression on his face changed several times, from a bit disappointed to firm and serious. Yeah, Yubushi rubbed the card in his hand. I won't let you down. I believe in you. I smiled and replied to him, and I believe in myself too. But in the end, Yubushi returned the card to me. He said, we don't need that much. 3 million is enough. Back at the hotel, after thinking it over, I still bought a plane ticket back to Bay City before going to bed. Before take-off, I received a text message from Yubushi. There's a fireworks show at Victoria Harbor tonight. Do you want to go and see it? I replied to him, I'm on the plane, going back to Bay City to take care of something. He quickly replied, the crew will start filming tomorrow. Can you come back? I can be back tonight. After thinking for a while, I added another sentence. Maybe I can catch the fireworks show at night. Okay, waiting for you to come back. I smiled and turned off my phone without replying to his last message. Today was a working day, and Hwasun should be at the company. Hello, I'm looking for Hwasun. The receptionist hadn't seen me before. Sorry, you can't go up without an appointment. When she heard me say Hwasun's name, the man in a professional suit behind her sized me up. See, these days, as long as a woman has some looks, she wants to find a sugar daddy. She probably doesn't know that our President Hua is never short of beautiful women around him. The man's voice wasn't loud, but it was just loud enough for me to hear. I glanced at him and didn't explain. I was hesitating whether to unblock Hwasun from my blacklist and make an appointment to meet him. Suddenly, I looked up and saw Hwasun's special assistant coming down from the elevator. The special assistant also saw me and trotted over. He asked me, are you here to see President Hua? I'll take you up. I nodded. Hwasun looked a bit surprised when he saw me, but he quickly regained his composure, with a slight sneer on the corner of his mouth. Decided to come back. I didn't say anything. I walked over and put the card on his desk. When I left the Hua family, I took my mother's bracelet. I returned some money to you before. The rest is in this card. Hwasun frowned. He glanced at the card on the desk and then looked up at me. Where did you get the money? He knew that when I left the Hua family, I took nothing but that bracelet. I had no money. I sold the bracelet. Hwasun was in disbelief. You sold your mother's heirloom. That was the only thing she left you. After saying that, the sneer on his face became even more obvious. Ran Qing. Hwasun was used to showing this superior attitude in front of me. For the sake of our acquaintance for so many years, if you come back now, you can still be Mrs. Hua. He thought I couldn't make it outside and that's why I came to him. In Hua-sun's eyes, I was probably just a canary suitable for being kept. He never thought highly of me. No need, I refused him in a calm tone. But Hua-sun was still very angry. He threw my card on the ground. Ran Qing, did you come back just to pay back the money? I didn't understand what he was angry about, but I still nodded. When I was about to leave, Hua-sun suddenly asked me, do we need to be so clear cut? Of course we do. I looked at him seriously. Hua-sun, I paid back all the money I owed you. From now on, we're even. Hua-sun sneered. The Hua family has raised you for so many years. Do you think this little money can make us even? I was stunned on the spot. After reacting, I suddenly felt angry. Hua-sun, when my family went bankrupt, I was in my senior year of high school. The tuition had been paid in advance, and there was still money on my meal card, so in that half year, apart from going back to the Hua family for meals occasionally during holidays, I didn't spend a single cent of the Hua family's money. Later, when I was in college, I had scholarships and didn't trouble your uncle and aunt to pay any expenses for me. After we got married after graduation, you gave me a card. When we divorced, I returned that card to you. You know, I didn't touch a single cent in it. After saying that, I picked up the card on the ground and put it back on the table. I paid you back for 8 million before. There's 6 million in this card. The extra is for my food and accommodation in the Hua family over the years. Hua-sun, you should have only spent 8 million to buy back that bracelet, right? So I didn't take any advantage of you, nor do I owe you or the Hua family anything. I smiled and looked into his eyes, calculated carefully. It's you who owe me more, but I was willing to give those, and I won't ask you to pay them back. After saying that, I turned around and left. Behind me was Hua-sun's angry voice. What do I owe you? Explain it clearly. I didn't answer and didn't look back. When I came out of his office, I saw the man who had said I was trying to find a sugar daddy at the reception. He eagerly pressed the elevator button for me and sent me off with a forced smile. It was already dark when I landed in Hong Kong. I was about to send a message to Yu Buishi when I looked up and saw him already waiting at the pick-up gate. How did you know I was on this flight? Yu Buishi said. I guessed. Sitting on the back seat of his second-hand motorcycle, I suddenly said, you should have sent me a message to ask, then you wouldn't have to wait for me at the airport all day. The roar of the motorcycle and the howling wind drowned out my voice. Yu Buishi didn't hear this sentence. It was too noisy and lively tonight. Victoria Harbor was bustling with people, and the fireworks were blooming in the dark night sky. I said, the fireworks are so beautiful. Suddenly, I heard a faint, you're beautiful too. It was already a year later when the movie wrapped up. In this year, I often received strange calls and text messages. Every time I answered the phone, there was silence on the other end. The text messages were also just some casual greetings. I guessed that the person sending the messages was Hua-sun, so I would block these numbers every time. Sometimes I really didn't know what Hua-sun was thinking. A person who didn't care much about me before, started to care about me after the divorce. Ran Qing, congratulations on the successful completion of filming. Grandma told me some things I didn't know before. Can we make an appointment to have a good talk when you're free? Just then, a hot search push popped up. It was another rumored affair between Hua-sun and a popular young actress in the past. As long as it was related to Hua-sun, I would click on every message and read it carefully. He rarely contacted me, and he seldom replied to the messages I sent, so I could only learn about what he was doing recently from the hot search before. But now I just casually swiped away the pop-up, calmly deleted the text message, and blocked the number. After packing up my things and coming out of the dressing room, I happened to see Yu Buishi and An. I don't know what An said, but Yu Buishi lowered his head and smiled softly. When he looked up again, he took away the cigarette An was about to light. An pouted and complained, what, you won't even let me smoke? Yu Buishi casually threw the cigarette into the trash can next to him. We're going to have dinner together later. Ran Qing doesn't like the smell of cigarettes. Smoke when you get home after dinner. An raised his eyebrows and teased him. Axie, you're different to Ran Qing. Do you like her? Yu Buishi smiled and didn't deny it, so An continued, Axie, if you like Ran Qing, go after her. There are so many people who like her. If you're not proactive, someone else will be. My heart skipped a beat, and I didn't notice my steps. After coming out of the hospital, Yu Buishi sent me to the hotel. He stopped at the door and asked me, can I walk you in? I sprained my ankle severely and could barely stand. Director Yu, if you don't want to walk me in, I might have to crawl in myself. Yu Buishi smiled and carried me into the room. When he went to the bathroom to get a towel for me, I suddenly thought that many times before, You wish he would stop at the door of my room. He never easily entered the room of any actress. Someone joked with him. There are a lot of paparazzi around here. Our director Yu cherishes his reputation too much, Yubuishi explained. I don't care about myself, but it's hard for actresses to refute rumors. Almost no one in the crew had a bad word to say about him. With a person like him, it's no wonder everyone respected and trusted him. Hearing a knock on the door, I asked Yubuishi to open it for me. Who is it? I turned my head and just saw Hwasun's stunned face outside the door. He frowned and sized up Yubuishi. Then his gaze passed over him and landed on me. Hwasun asked me in a questioning tone, who is he? What are you doing in the room? Ran Qing, have you forgotten your identity? I had always hated the way Hwasun talked to me with this condescending attitude. When I liked him before, I could convince myself to be tolerant, but now I felt there was no need for me to keep tolerating. What identity? I maintained the posture of turning my head and asked him coldly, Hwasun, have you forgotten that we have no relationship anymore? It seemed that Hwasun had just remembered that we were divorced. His expression froze for a moment, and he looked bitter as he asked me, Ran Qing, can we have a good talk? I had nothing to talk to him about, but I knew that with Hwasun's personality, if I didn't agree, he would keep pestering me. He was a person who wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. Fine, what do you want to talk about? Hwasun didn't answer, but looked at Yubuishi. Ask him to leave. I laughed coldly. I understood that he didn't want others to know about our relationship. I looked at Yubuishi before I could say anything. Yubuishi sensibly said, I'll go out. If you need anything, just call me. After that, he lifted his feet and walked out. As the two passed by each other, the looks they gave each other were obscure. The door was gently closed. I asked Hwasun, what do you want to talk about? Grandma said that we once had a child. Hwasun's tone was urgent. Is this true? If he didn't believe Grandma's words, I don't think he would have flown all the way to Hong Kong to see me. It's true. I didn't tell him before because I knew he didn't care. Now that he already knew, there was no need to hide it anymore. I asked him, did you come to Hong Kong especially because of the child? Hwasun seemed restless. He looked at me and shook his head. Yes, and no. Ran Qing, I've missed you a lot since you left. These words made me laugh involuntarily. My reaction made the expression on his face even more desolate. I'm telling the truth. I just didn't realize that I liked you before. Believe it or not, you've been in my heart for a long time. I continued to laugh, just like he had mocked me countless times before. Hwasun, don't be too persistent about things that are already lost, whether it's me or that child. The child between Hwasun and me was conceived by accident. Hwasun had said that he wouldn't touch any woman other than Qingyan, so that time, he had drunk too much when he had a relationship with me, and at that time, I had a bad cold and was too weak to resist. When I woke up the next day, Hwasun had already left. I endured the soreness all over my body, got up and took cold medicine again, and finally fell asleep again. It wasn't until a few months later when Grandma noticed something was wrong and took me to the hospital for an examination that I found out I was pregnant. During the spring festival, you were in a bad mood and accidentally pushed me into the water. You thought I could swim and would be able to get up by myself, so you turned around and left. But it was winter, and my clothes were heavy. After getting pregnant, I was always sick, and it took me a great deal of effort to barely get to the shore. Later, when I went to the hospital, the doctor said I had been in the ice-cold water for too long and suggested that I give up the child. Hwasun's pupils dilated sharply. His lips quivered, and he stared at me for a long time before saying, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Whether he knew or not didn't really matter. With his attitude towards me at that time, even if he had known, I don't think he would have kept the child. It doesn't matter. All of this is in the past. Maybe it's lucky that a child who wasn't expected by his parents didn't get to be born. I looked at him and smiled. Hwasun, do you have anything else to say? If not, can you leave? I want to rest. Hwasun could tell that I was chasing him away. He slowly turned around just as he pushed the door to the room open. I called out to him, Hwasun. Hwasun quickly turned his head to look at me, his eyes full of expectation. Yubuishi should be outside. Can you ask him to come in for me? Thank you. I watched as the light in Hwasun's eyes gradually disappeared. He smiled self-deprecatingly. Ran Qing, his name isn't Yubuishi. Hwasun looked back at Yubuishi, who had just come over, and then continued to say to me, his surname is Ji. He's the only son of the Ji family in Hong Kong. You've known him for a long time, right? He didn't even tell you his real name. Seeing the gradually stiff expression on Yubuishi's face, I knew what Hwasun said should be true. After Hwasun left, Yubuishi, no, it should be Ji Buishi. He helped me to the bed. I said to him, thank you, good night, but Ji Buishi still stood by my bed, not showing any signs of leaving. He asked me, Ran Qing, do you have anything to ask me? I shook my head. No, everyone has their own secrets. Besides, the relationship between Yu Buishi and me wasn't at a stage where we had to be completely honest with each other. The movie was released simultaneously in Hong Kong and on the Chinese mainland. After finishing my work in Hong Kong, I returned to Bay City. Everyone thought the movie's huge success was a fluke. But I knew from the beginning that this movie was bound to be a hit, and I, as the lead actress, was sure to make a spectacular comeback. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been willing to sell my mother's bracelet. I saw Ji Buishi again on the third day after I returned to Bay City. He suddenly appeared outside my house, dragging a suitcase, and asked me cautiously, "Ran Qing, can you take me in for a couple of days?" Suddenly, I remembered the night I left Hong Kong. I went to say goodbye to him and An. I heard him confide to An, "Ran Qing is going back to Bay City." An rolled his eyes at him. "Haven't you confessed to Ran Qing yet?" "I'm afraid it will be too abrupt and make her unhappy." "Axie, you're so smart, but why are you so clueless when it comes to Ran Qing?" Ji Buishi sighed. "I don't know. I'm always too cautious and worry about gains and losses around her." He glanced at the beer An handed him and shook his head to refuse. "No. Ran Qing doesn't like drunkards," An said. "She's not here. Even if she's not here, I can't drink. I'm afraid she'll dislike me if she finds out." I looked at Ji Buishi outside the door and smiled silently. I asked him, "What are you doing in Bay City?" Ji Buishi said, "I'm here to pursue you, to tell you that I like you." His sudden directness made me a bit flustered for a moment. My first reaction was actually to pretend not to hear and try to muddle through and escape. Ji Buishi seemed to see through my thoughts. He sighed. "Ran Qing, I knew you'd react like this. That's why I've been afraid to confess to you. You can make bold decisions at work, but when it comes to emotional issues, you choose to escape." I consulted a doctor friend, and she said your situation is because you've been hurt emotionally before, so you use the way of escape to protect yourself. "Ran Qing, I'm not coming to Bay City to ask you to give me anything in return. I'm just here to tell you that I like you. You don't have to force yourself to break out of your protective shell, nor do you have to like me that much. It's enough that I like you. Ran Qing, you just need to accept my love and enjoy it." He was silent for a moment, then suddenly apologized to me softly. "Sorry, am I scaring you?" "Actually, I prepared a lot of things to say to you before coming to Bay City, but I can't remember anything when I see you." Looking at his nervous and uneasy appearance, I suddenly thought of myself in the past. The suitor is humble, and the one being loved is arrogant. I smiled. I stepped back and let him in. When the crew called me to look at the hot search, Ji Buishi was asking me what I wanted to eat. "Ran Qing, see how you want to handle this. The crew will cooperate fully." When I opened my phone, there was a huge wave of abuse towards me on the internet. The incident where Hwasun's rumored girlfriend identified me as a third party a few years ago was dug up by someone with ulterior motives. How can someone with such a problematic character still make movies? To be honest, the movie's huge success is mainly due to the director and the script. Any actress could have made it a hit as the lead. Can Ran Qing get out of the entertainment industry? I couldn't clarify before because my account was managed by my assistant, but now that everything is in my own hands, I don't have to keep silent and endure these baseless accusations. When I was about to post a clarification on Weibo, I suddenly saw a statement Hwasun had just posted. "Ran Qing and I are husband and wife after all these years. He was finally willing to make our marriage public." But my heart didn't stir at all. I deleted the words I had just typed and re-edited, posting the duration of my marriage to Hwasun and the time of our divorce in an instant. The public opinion on the internet reversed. I looked at Ji Buishi, who was preparing dinner, and suddenly said, "Ji Buishi, I've been divorced." "Yeah, I know," he replied softly, and then continued to deal with the ingredients. At this point, I knew I didn't need to explain anything to him. During dinner, Ji Buishi confessed his secret to me. "Yu is my mother's surname. My father doesn't support me making movies. He doesn't allow me to use the Ji family's connections, nor does he allow anyone around me to lend me money. He wants to force me to go home and inherit the family business, saying that I don't have the talent for making movies." I have to admit that he's quite right. I really don't have the talent. I looked at him in confusion. "Nonsense, everyone says you're a genius director." Ji Buishi shook his head. "That's because of you. With you as the lead actress, I was able to make this movie well." "Ran Qing, some people can't see your radiance, but they gilded me, who just borrowed a bit of your light." At night, lying in bed, I saw Ji Buishi's statement of quitting the industry. He said, "I've never been a genius. The movie was successful because my lead actress played my lead actress." After winning awards for the movie, I gradually got more resources. After visiting a senior and preparing to leave, I suddenly saw the community security guards trying to catch a kitten. I suddenly thought of Cece. This kitten looked a lot like Cece, And even the bib around its neck was exactly the same as the one I bought before. I thought of something and went up to confirm. As soon as it saw me, the kitten immediately meowed at me. It broke free from the net and ran to my feet. After seeing the name tag on the kitten, I finally confirmed that it was Cece. I asked the security guards, "What are you going to do with it?" The security guards shrugged and smiled helplessly. They didn't say anything, but I understood that if I let them take Cece away, I'm afraid Cece wouldn't survive until tomorrow. I was still soft-hearted after all. I took Cece and went to Hwasun's place. It was a coincidence that I happened to see someone coming out of Hwasun's house. It was He Zhao. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and he seemed like a different person, looking and decadent. I suddenly thought of the gossip I heard some time ago about him trying to stop a wedding in Yunqing with a toy gun. Hwasun saw me and came over in a hurry. You know He Zhao. He offended someone, and his grandfather is going to send him abroad, so he came to say goodbye to me today. I wasn't interested in his friend's affairs. I just handed Cece to him. Cece got lost. I happened to run into it on my way back. Cece was naughty, and it had gotten lost before when I was taking care of it. I thought this time was the same as before, but Hwasun threw Cece away in disgust. It didn't get lost. Hwasun kicked Cece impatiently. I don't want it anymore. You divorced me because of it. You hate it, so I don't want it either. He looked up at me. Ran Qing, can we start over? This time, without Cece, we can live a good life again. I looked at Cece, which was extremely afraid of him, and my heart felt icy cold, although I didn't know what Cece had gone through to become like this. But I knew that the culprit must be Hwasun. No, since he didn't want Cece, there was nothing for me to talk to him about. I turned around and left with Cece. While driving, Cece kept lying on my lap. No matter how many times I pushed it away, it suddenly became very clingy to me and would act cute and please me, just like it used to do to Hwasun. But even so, I still didn't plan to keep it. I'm soft-hearted yet ruthless. I won't forgive those who have hurt me, whether they are people or cats. Ran Qing, seeing my car, Qing Nian came out of the yard. I met Qing Nian at the movie premiere. She waited for me backstage for a long time. When she saw me, she was very excited and asked if we could take a photo together. She said, "Ran Qing, I'm your fan." In fact, the moment I saw Qing Nian, I recognized her. There was still a photo of her at the age of 16 in the drawer of Hwasun's study. The 16-year-old Qing Nian didn't look much different from her in her 30s. Is this the stray cat you mentioned? Qing Nian stroked Cece. This cat looks a lot like the one I gave away before. I wonder if that person took good care of my kitten. My heart skipped a beat, and I suddenly asked her, "Who did you give the cat to?" Qing Nian's mind was all on the cat, and she casually replied, "A neighbor before." The breeze blew my hair. I twitched the corners of my mouth and smiled. Maybe Hwasun didn't expect that in the mouth of his white moonlight, he was just a neighbor. When I was leaving, Qing Nian promised me, "Don't worry, Ran Qing, I'll take good care of it. You know, I really like kittens." After I divorced Hwasun, I basically cut off contact with the Hua family, but Grandma Hua suddenly called me. She said she was ill and wanted me to visit her. Grandma Hua had always been nice to me. Since she was ill and wanted to see me, I definitely had to go. I asked Jibuishi, "There's an elder who has taken good care of me and is ill. Can you accompany me to see her?" Jibuishi was eager to do so. After quitting the industry, he became my little assistant. He couldn't wait to stick to me all the time. Plus, the Hua family was the investor of this movie. I know this kind of trick can only deceive you once. Ran Qing, Hwasun said he knows he was wrong. He wants to see you. He wants to ask you to give him a chance. As she said this, Hwasun was standing beside her, looking at me with burning eyes. I completely ignored him. I pulled Jibuishi and introduced him to Grandma Hua. "Grandma, I brought my boyfriend to see you today. His name is Jibuishi." Hearing this, Hwasun reacted violently. "Impossible, you're lying to me." He was about to reach out and pull me, but Jibuishi immediately stood in front of me. At the same time, Grandma Hua stopped Hwasun. "Ran Qing, it's Grandma who was muddle-headed." When we left the Hua family, Hwasun chased after us relentlessly. Grandma Hua suddenly slapped him across the face. "How much longer are you going to make a scene? You're the one who is sorry to Ran Qing. Now that she's doing well, can't you just let her go?" The gate of the Hua family slowly closed behind me. After walking out of that gate, no matter how much noise there was inside, I couldn't hear it anymore. Today was a sunny day. Jibuishi held my hand and asked me, "Did you just say I'm your boyfriend?" I looked straight ahead and continued walking. I replied to him as I walked, "Yeah." Jibuishi's mouth curved up wildly. "Ran Qing, I knew it. One day I'm sure I'll succeed in becoming your real boyfriend, the end.